Well, g'day everybody, and welcome back to the Camera Live podcast. I'm Greg, and joining me is co-host Justin. And it's Thursday, the 9th of April, all of a sudden. And we are here yet again to interview an amazing photographer, Australian photographer. On today's menu, we have one Sophie Geraghty, Special Reserve. Sophie is a weddings, family, newborn and maternity photographer. Plus, on the flip side, she's also a corporate and event and real estate photographer. Sophie, welcome to the show. It's great to have you on board.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm really excited.
As are we. And Justin, how are you doing, mate? Welcome. Good to have you on board as well, obviously.
Thanks, Greg. I thought you forgot about me. I was like, oh, don't worry. I'm over here in the corner.
No, okay. I know who pays the bills. That's all right.
I'm great. It was raining this morning when I woke up. When we went to the gym, it was pouring, and now the sun's out. It's weird. Bendigo. You know, who would have picked it?
What time did you get up to go to the gym?
5:20.
That's ridiculous.
Oof.
That's the time. Early bird gets the stuff.
Are you're an early worker outerer?
Yeah, I've been hit and miss lately. I went to this. I used to do it every morning. So every morning, wake up at like 5:20, exercise at 6 at the gym. At a class, so I can just walk in and then people tell me what to do. This morning, Elena was the coach. She told me what to do, which makes it even better. And so if I don't exercise in the morning, I tend to have a very slow morning. Like I won't get anything more done in some other realm. I'll just kind of wake up a little bit later, float around a bit, and I won't start work or anything any earlier. So I've sort of found out that, and then I'll have to exercise in the afternoon. Anyway, that's just so the routine for me is, get it done in the morning and then the day's free.
Yeah. I get that.
Nice. Yeah. Now, Sophie, just on that topic, you do a bit of distance running, don't you? Bit of endurance stuff, is that right?
Yes, I do. I have been known to go for some crazy kilometers here and there.
We've had Emily Black on the show in the past, and she's also an endurance runner. What's your longest run to date?
Longest run is an event called Coast to Cozzy, which I don't know if you can see behind me, that Akubra up there. That's what you win for the first time you complete the event, and that is 240 kilometers. That runs from
240 kilometers.
Yep.
How far is it to Bendigo from me, Justin?
Less than that.
Yeah. I can run to Justin.
What? Are you kidding? I thought you were going to say a 100. I think is like that's one of those things that's the big, the big one. And then what's 100? 100 miles is a big one in the US.
160. Yeah, and they're becoming bigger here. So I've got a 100-miler event in about 4 weeks time.
240.
So 240 Ks, yeah. So it runs from the Twofolds Bay in Eden on the south coast of New South Wales, and you basically run pretty much 98% road from Eden to the top of Mount Kosciuszko through Charlotte Pass, and then you come back down. You also have to
go up a mountain.
Yeah, it does. Well, when you look at the elevation profile, the whole thing is basically from sea level.
Thing's uphill.
To the highest point in Australia, and then you come back down to Charlotte Pass to finish.
Yeah. All right. Now, I know this is a photography podcast, but it's our podcast. We get to do what we want. So I want to find out about this 240 kilometer. How long did it take?
So I was out there for 44 hours. I wasn't planning on being out there for that long, but we hit a couple of road bumps, quite literally, where so you start at 5 a.m. at Twofolds Bay in Eden. And by about 4 o'clock on the Friday afternoon, the first afternoon, I think it was a really hot event. So it was, kind of in the 30s and 40s for the majority of it during the day. And I think a mixture of probably overheating, too much fuel, kind of intake of liquid and food. And I started vomiting at 4 p.m. I didn't stop vomiting until 6 a.m. the next morning. So I vomited for 14 hours straight. We do hard things. And so it was literally a case of you'd be kind of like running, walking, 500 meters, vomit, run, walk 500. And, obviously you get down to the bare bones of it. It's an interesting event in that most ultras or most events, you would have set aid stations that you have to kind of run to, and there'd be checkpoints or whatever. This event, after the first 24 Ks, you have a crew car. So I had my own crew there, who are 3 of my closest friends. And they can then crew you whenever you want. So because it's on a road.
Okay. Yeah.
You basically kind of work out with your crew how often you want fueling, crewing, etc. And so the initial plan was probably about every 10 Ks, the car would stop and, I'd restock with whatever I needed. But because it was so hot, after the first probably 50 Ks or so, the girl said to me, it's hot. Duh. So we're going to now do you every 5 Ks just to make sure that you're keeping the fluids up, keeping the salt, keeping the salt up. And I think that although it was the right approach in terms of salt levels, electrolytes, etc., what it meant was that I was probably eating a lot more frequently than I would normally be used to in an event like this. And so, it just caught up with me over the course of the day. And by 4 p.m. I just... And the vomit during an ultra isn't something that's particularly scary or worrying for me, especially. It's something I'm kind of... There's a few running jokes that Sophie loves to have a bit of a spew in a race, so that's fine. So it wasn't like...
Sounds like a t-shirt.
Totally, like a brand. It's a brand thing. And so it wasn't kind of scary, but I mean, it was obviously really fatiguing. So we have, obviously, there are checkpoints that you have to reach. There are certain cutoffs that you have to make. And there's a bridge in a little town called Dalgety, which is, I think, around the 165K mark or something like that. And you had to be there by 7 a.m. And I made it there with 4 minutes to spare. The race directors and all the medical crew were basically all lining up outside the like along the bridge to basically pull me from the course, because I was like, there's no way that that this chick's going to make it. It was my first time doing this event. Like, rookie, has zero reason to be there, like absolutely no place in this race whatsoever. And I made it with 4 minutes, had a quick dirt nap, ate some food, and then was off and out and finished.
Wow,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
So
I love it.
Yes, I am.
So the maths on that is 240 kilometers with no stops whatsoever. You'd have to average in 44 hours. You'd have to average over 5 kilometers an hour. But that's with zero, never stop. And obviously you're stopping to eat, you're stopping to refuel, spew. Have a nap. Is napping common, like a little power nap?
So when you get into those bigger distance things, then yes. So I had 3 naps. One was 7 minutes, one was 10 minutes, and one was 13 minutes. So it's literally like one was me asleep in the car, in my car, just like that. One was on the mat, on like just a picnic blanket, and I literally just that was when I crossed the bridge at Dalgety to make the cutoff, and I literally just came in, went starfish down on the ground for about 10 minutes, and then the next one was in Jindabyne, at one of the cutoff, the aid station crew point that they had there, which was I just fell asleep in the bush, just on a head on a log, like fully just out for the count. Wow. And there's obviously some great photos of all of those snoozes as well.
I was going to ask you about photos. I was going to ask you about the photos, because when we interviewed Emily, and we've chatted with Emily since then about her endurance running and long distance running, and she's incorporated her photography into it. So does your photography come into your events? Does someone take photos of you while you're doing it? Is there a documentation process for you?
I mean, I just saw in the comments someone's talking about UTA, and that's the one I've got going on in a couple of
this one. Philip Johnson says we have a huge running event in the Blue Mountains each year called the Ultra Trail. That's very popular. Top distance 161 kilometers, and you pay $1,000 for the pleasure. Is that so?
Correct.
So what's that one called?
So that's Ultra Trail Australia. That's actually this mug. So it's not as a controversial event now, but it was. It used to be something called the North Face 50, and it grew, and then a few years ago it got bought out by Ironman UTMB, and so there's been some, varying opinions about various topics. I don't know how. don't quite know what I can say. I got no PR training. I don't work for them. I don't care.
This is a photography podcast. No one's listening. Everyone's just like, what gear does she use?
Stop talking about running. Who wants to talk about running? So that's the event that I'm doing in what is it now? 4 weeks, just under 4 weeks time,
Cool.
something like that.
Well, Philip can camp out on the side there and
get a
set
photo.
up his own little photo, set up his own little aid station there for you.
It's funny. It's funny being a photographer and a runner, and I'm actually a running coach, so I coach people to do these crazy distances as well.
Yep.
And it's really funny when, like you run Sydney Marathon or you run UTA and you get your photos back and you're like, it's fucking overexposed and I don't know why they've done this. Can we just not?
Mm-hmm. You never want the event photos because you're just like, oh.
No. And I've actually shot a couple of really epic events in both in South Australia. One was the Hyson 100 or 105, and one was an event called Irrational South, and it's a 200-mile event. So then you're talking
that does sound irrational.
It is
irrational. That running organization has Delirious West, Irrational South, Unreasonable East was their most recent one, but that doesn't exist anymore. So they're 200 miles. So we're talking I can't even do that maths, like 340 kilometers or something stupid. And you do it over 5 days of pretty much constant moving, and there's sleep stations and stuff. And that one was a really interesting event. So I was the only photographer. And because a lot of these events have very small, so here we go. We're going to make running and photography meet. How great is this?
Love it.
So most of these independent running events are, they're very small businesses. They're run by, a handful of people. It's a dream and a passion realized, which I'm all for.
Yep.
And so I was the only photographer at this event. It starts in a place called Blinman, which is about 7 hours drive north of Adelaide Airport. And yeah, so it happens kind of this time of year. So it was April when it used to go ahead, and I obviously had to have a car, so I flew into Adelaide and I got lent the race director's parents' car, which is like this old Holden LPG like sedan thing with like sheepskin seats and a sheepskin steering wheel. I'm going, cool, okay, yep. How does LPG work? Like, can someone please?
You got to screw the thing on, and it's
Can someone show me the YouTube video? And also, when I'm like 7 hours out of Adelaide, can you get LPG? Like, I don't know. So I drove up there, and it was obviously a really isolating incident. There we go. Yeah, how we go.
I just for our international viewers, who there is a few, but I just want to show them like.
How far that is.
Yeah, and where it is in Australia. That this sort of middly area, there's no man's land,
no person's land.
There ain't nothing there. So so once you get, I think it's like kind of Port Augusta kind of and start north there, there is nothing. Like you are driving for hundreds of kilometers and there is just nothing there.
I'm just looking in the town of Blinman, like what comes up on the maps, and one of them is that one of the key points of interest in Blinman is the Blinman Community Shed, and then when you click on it, the picture that comes up, it's not even
built yet.
And it's very small.
I was going to say, I think that was even there when I was there.
The wheelbarrow for scale, that's not a big shed, and that's the community shed. I think just to give everyone an idea.
There you go. Yep, a rampart. I took a photo of that house. Yep. There's nothing there. There's a pub, and I'm a vegetarian, and so the 2 nights that we're there, the night before the race and the the 2 nights before the race, before it started, that we stayed there. In fact, I couldn't even stay in Blinman because it's such a small place. There wasn't enough space for me. So I had to stay 7 kilometers down the road in a station outhouse that they put 2 bunk beds in and went, here's some accommodation for you.
Wow.
With all my camera gear and stuff. Anyway, so I get to the start line, driving for like 7 hours. And the further away you get from Adelaide, and, you're trying to stop for, fuel, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to next fill up. So I'm kind of stopping as often as I can. You go through a town called Hawker, which has like a couple of cafes and a petrol station and stuff. And the amount of green things that you can consume, or colorful things that you can consume, just rapidly diminish, because transporting this stuff, fresh food and vegetables out there is really hard. So, and they make real comedy out of it, in that the fridges that they would keep like some veg in, or or some fruit in or whatever, they'll call it long green thing and it's a cucumber, or round red thing and it's an apple, and because it's just not every day, and it probably cost you, I think, it was costing me like $7.50 for an apple to have in my car, for at some point,
Wow.
And anyway, so I, driving around for 5 days, and I'm driving through, off-road, like old dried up riverbeds in this car that has no business being really on the road at all anymore. And it's just, I'm there going, if something happens to me, like, there is no reception. Like you have to drive, 10 kilometers down a dirt track to get 1 bar of 3G on your phone to maybe send a text message, like you can't have a phone call, nothing, so I'm going, if anything happens, like I'm done. This is me out.
Yeah. It's like Wolf Creek all over again.
Yeah, it is.
It is so remote, but like obviously photographing this stuff, and they're very small events. So runners are spread out over the course of 100 kilometers from first person to last person kind of thing. So it's a huge distance that you're covering. And we had a real incident. They have a 200-mile event that started on the Wednesday or Thursday or something, and then on the Saturday they start, like halfway through the course, they start a 100-mile event. And so everyone kind of starts to kind of catch up and run together. And going to the start line of the 100-mile event, there was a car ute in front of me that was one of the crew for the 200-mile runners. And, big ute has enough stuff to live out of his car for 5 days, because that's what you do when you're going from A to B. There's no, point of continuity along the way. And his car blew up in front of me. And I've got these amazing photos of just this ute so I was 50 meters behind him, and smoke just starts pissing out of the back of this ute, and there's runners running along the side, because it's all just kind of fire trail that dirt tracks that we're running along. And he's me and a couple of other people are like flashing lights and trying to wave him down, be like, stop, get out of the car. And he kind of gets out, and he's this old guy that's obviously lived 7 lives and should probably be dead. And he gets out and he starts like trying to get stuff out of the back of the car. We're like, I don't think you have time for this. I think you have to just move. So we get him away, and then the whole car just goes boom and just completely explodes. Black smoke, everything. Like, it was bad. And so there's that photographer, there's the helper in you that goes, I want to help. Obviously there's nothing I can do now, this car's just on fire. Might as well just take photos. So I've got these epic photos of this car just pissing into flames. Obviously nothing to do with the race itself. And then within 12 hours, 15 hours or something of the 100-mile event starting, a massive storm blew in, and you are remote, and for those that know kind of outback Australia, when the rain starts coming, you've got to be really careful, because floods happen, very, very quickly.
Fast.
And really fast. And so we then spent the next 12 hours pulling people off course and trying to find people, and sending SES vehicles out, and using the emergency manuals. And I mean, and it was a real message. To me, I was really mindful of driving around, even like in that kind of golden hour sunset, where the photographer in me is going, I want to get to the top of this mountain and take this photo and get this person. And I'm there going, the kangaroos out there are 7 feet tall, and they are built like those are not the kind of things that this car that I'm driving is I'm going to lose. And so I was really mindful that as soon as it got dark, I was kind of out for the night. But then you've got to think about the safety of people and the winds that this storm, kind of whipped up, and the rain and stuff. It was horrendous. And people were out there thinking, like, we're actually going to die. Like, people were terrified. And it was a real lesson in how to make sure that, you have not just how do you keep people safe, but how do you plan for something like that? And like, what are your emergency procedures? Because in that instance, it became very apparent that the safety procedures and the emergency plans that they obviously you have to submit to councils and landowners and Parks Australia and all this kind of stuff, that they probably weren't the most practical. So it was, like, if there's bad weather, then, text all the participants and tell them to go to the nearest aid station. Well, you can't text them because there's no reception. And then the next level down was text the aid station volunteers and tell them not to let runners continue. Again, you can't communicate with anyone on your aid station. So what do you do? And it was really scary, and there was a real again, I don't want to sound like I'm kind of bad mouthing anyone, because I wouldn't have wanted to be in that position, but there came a point, like we were joking before we came on air about, Sophie will be the boss. Like, there was a moment where I kind of looked around this like literal kind of round table in this Airbnb in this place called Quorn, going, no one else knows what to do. Like, if I don't do something, if I don't make a suggestion, we're not pulling anyone off course. So I became the president. I was in charge.
Nice. Well played.
It's probably not the first time a photographer's had to take charge of a situation that everyone else there isn't ready for. And that could be from something life-threatening like you're talking about. I'm sure lots of situations like that. Or down to the very smallest things. I've seen Jim a million times at a wedding have to put all the groomsmen's, what are those things called? Pin things, boutonniere, whatever they're called. And he'll just have to go through and do it, because they're all standing there looking at each other being like, how do we do this? Or tying their ties as well. And they're just fully unprepared. I've
done that. I would say every wedding that I've shot, I have been that person. And I actually now get to the point where I get to the point now where I don't even wait. I think almost to kind of go, okay, now we're going to do this, and wait for them to fumble through it. I'm like, do you know how to tie a tie? Do you know how to do a bow tie? Do you know how to do the pins? And most of the time they're like, no. I'm like, do you want me to do it? Yep. So I'll do all the corsages, all the buttonholes, and then I'm like, we'll just fake it afterwards. So now the father of groom's going to come in and pin and pretend, and now you can look at each other and have a, pretend like you're having a deep and meaningful conversation, because it's that kind of the unplanned. And people just see the photos, right? They just see the end result of, that's the beautiful photo. I want that photo with my mum or my dad or whoever it is. And they don't think about the logistics of what it actually takes to get there.
That's actually a good one, that I want the photo of my dad pinning the thing on, and the dad's just like, I have no idea what to, like, I shouldn't be doing this. I've never done this. Why would the most important thing you've ever had pinned on you in your entire life be given to me?
Be done by,
this farmer with massive hands.
I didn't even own a tie until last week, when I felt like, I didn't even own a suit. Like, I'm a tradie. I work on a building site, and I drive a ute, and I like a beer at the end of the day. I don't know. And it's funny because people see the end result, and that's what they want for them. That's how they want to portray that's the memory that they think is worth having. Especially in a wedding, when you're talking about, the most emotive moments, and the things that the events in our lives that we put a huge amount of significance and weight on. I think my best wedding story was getting to the moment in the ceremony where it's the presentation of the rings. And how many weddings have we been to where the best man does this one and everyone laughs?
The fake loss.
It wasn't fake. He went,
nice.
And luckily the venue where they were getting married was a yacht club. And he just left the rings in like the little ante room, the little green room where they were getting kind of holding the fort before they came down for the ceremony. And he just left them up there. And obviously it's Aussie summer, outdoor wedding. Everybody's dressed up. Everybody's already hot and sweaty. So I just went, I'll go. And it's up like 7 flights of stairs,
Oh, no.
through the kitchen, like shortcutting it through. So I've like just dumped my cameras down at literally at the altar and just bolted to go and get these rings and come back and been like, wait, please, camera's back on. Now you can go.
That's awesome. I only had it once, the real forget the rings, and I've never seen a groomsman run as fast, or the best man, like because he realized he'd left them in the car, and he was like hurdling fences and stuff to get to these cars. There were some good photos that come out of that.
But
That's
you know
awesome.
what? Like that's the cool stuff, right?
It's
like
the real stuff. It's the real day.
It is, and I think I'm really lucky with my wedding clients. And maybe it's how I present myself and how I, that's who I attract. I want to shoot real people's weddings. I want to shoot the people who have who want to share their real story and it not be the Instagram idealized, because that's what's going to be real for them. And they're going to in that case, Justin, they're going to remember that moment forever. And that's going to mean so much more than any kind of posed image of the father-in-law pinning the buttonhole on. My dog wants to play fetch.
That's all right.
That's all right.
Bring him on screen. I should. I'll read out some chat messages, Greg. If you want, we'll take a little pause and just see who's here. Because Lisa Leach is here. Robert Varner says, good morning, Australia, from New Jersey. Good morning, Robert, from New Jersey. Oh, look at that pooch. Oh, what a
His
good
name
dog.
is Scout. He's a stupid teenage boy.
Oh, well. Hi, Scout.
Oh, g'day, Scout.
Who else is here? Felicity Johnson says, morning, everyone. No power here, so watching this on the phone. Oh, hopefully that's going well. Bruce Moyle is here. Morning, all. Checking in between jobs. Hope the jobs are going well, Bruce. Good morning, Paul. Julie Powell is here. Can't stay long. We'll have to watch the replay. You will have to watch the replay. David Mascaro from San Francisco says, took a nasty fall today doing a city walk, broke a skylight and an orange filter, but the 40 Voigtlander glass was saved. I turned in the film today. Also, I'll see in a few days if it's out of sync. Watching this while soaking in a tub of Epsom salts. Lol. Well, hope you're feeling all right.
Hope you're all right.
Hope it didn't hurt too much.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're listening along live, throw a comment in the live chat. Tell us where you are, what's going on. Ask Sophie a question if you want. She seems to know a lot of things about a lot of stuff, including Canon cameras, which are awesome.
I just think I have a lot of stories. I think I've just done a lot of dumb stuff.
Done a lot of dumb stuff. Perfect. That'll make the rest of this podcast awesome. What else? What else did I have to say? Sponsor of this show, us, Lucky Straps, me and Greg. It's us. We're the sponsor. We sponsor our own podcast. We're having a sale at the moment, a little anniversary sale, because we turned 12 this month. It's been 12 years since we launched. Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Actually, I got
Happy
I got a button
birthday.
for that.
Wow.
And yeah, I did it.
Did you pay for that?
No, come with the soundboard. So it was preloaded on there when I got it, and Greg
so
was like,
proud of
no.
I know what I'm going to do with this.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. Go to luckystraps.com. There's a big range of stuff that have got varying discounts up to 25% off, but also until Sunday, if you use the code MAKEITYOURS, all one word, make it yours, you can get free personalization on any leather camera strap. Just normal personalization. You can't put your logo on it or something crazy like that. Just normal, like your name or whatever, just in text.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Justin, because we had this conversation at...
Oh, no.
There we go.
Yeah, bring it on, Sophie.
We had
Bring
this
it on.
conversation at BFOP, and I know, because a little birdie told me, that you're having a planning meeting at Lucky Straps. Will there be a double harness for women in Lucky Straps' future?
There will be. I can definitely say there will be. When will there be?
The near future?
I will not commit. But there will be. Look, there should be prototypes in a short amount of time. Hopefully. We've got some big plans for some new products. I'm looking at stuff on my floor. I can't bring it on screen, but I'm looking at some things. They're very cool. And the sling style and dual style straps are definitely on the list amongst some other things. And we're catching up on Friday, Greg and Jim and I, and we're going to be going bananas, looking at different options and things that we can try and work on over the coming months.
Awesome.
So maybe by BFOP this year, we might have some things to, at a minimum, some things to like play with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I don't
because
know.
We had this conversation obviously at
We
BFOP
did.
last year, and the double harness for me, and I would say I use two bodies across 99% of my shoots, and from a physical perspective, like I'm a strong, fit person, right? Like it's that's, but I'm small. I'm 5'2", so I'm not a tall human being. So I'm not a broad human being. And the single strap obviously is trying to manage that is just awkward, and there's nothing like looking super professional. Yeah. There's nothing like looking super professional and being like, hang on, and you miss stuff, right? Like regardless of whether it's a wedding, whether it's a conference, you're going to miss stuff. Yep. And I think the weight distribution is obviously great. And I feel like my posture is undeniably better, when even just kind of walking around, because you're not constantly, conscious of, I've got a camera hanging here, so I've got to kind of keep it on my shoulder kind of thing. Yeah. Yep. And, when you shoot 14 hours a day for some of those big conferences or a big wedding or something. I don't tend to do big weddings like that, but it's a lot on your body. And as someone who is in their 40s, I'm really mindful that my physical health is actually a really big part of my profession, because for any photographers watching, and I'm sure it's before on your podcast, like if you're sick, or if you for whatever reason physically, if you can't shoot, you don't get paid, and that's beyond even the idea of letting a client down for being like, sorry, I've hurt my back so I can't shoot, or something like that. So
do you want
more harness, please?
We're on it, and I completely agree. And physical, it's very interesting you mentioned physical health. So dumb story, Jim and I were shooting weddings together. We were in the like kind of, our seasons were getting bigger. We're shooting every weekend through summer, double headers and all that kind of stuff. And we joined a CrossFit gym. Neither of us had exercised really, like we're active. We did things, I was wakeboarding and snowboarding, being active and stuff like that, but we didn't exercise. And in the first month, and definitely didn't run much at all. And in the first month, one of the workouts that came up was a 10K run, which was by far longer than I'd ran, I don't know, since, and even at school, I don't think I ever did a 10K run. Never ran 10Ks in my life. And I was still exercising at that time in Nike skate shoes. I hadn't even bought like runners yet. They were just like flat shoes. And we went in, and so this gym too, the cool thing about this gym was sort of old school at the time. You just went in and you didn't know what the workout was that day until you arrived. It was just like you show up, you do the workout. And that stopped you from like going, I don't want to do that, because you're already there. And we got there and it was 10K run. And Jim was like, we've got a wedding. Like we got a 12-hour wedding today. Should we do this? And I was like, if we can do this and shoot a wedding, we can do anything on a wedding day. You know what I mean? Like there'll be, and so we did. We both ran our first 10K. Then we got to this wedding. We normally shoot around Bendigo. Not a lot of big buildings around Bendigo. And that's this one. I think this was down towards Melbourne on like a vineyard or something. First time we've ever been, where I think they were either on the second or third floor, no elevator. So the first thing we had to do was get our gear out and walk upstairs, and we were both like, what have we done?
Do you feel the whole back of your body just go?
I can distinctly remember just my quads and calves just being like, because I had this, and at the time I had a giant, I'm pretty sure I'd gone to a think tank production manager. I'd gone through so many different ways of managing my gear on a wedding day, and this was my I want everything, including my lighting gear and stands, in one bag. It was the heaviest bag ever. That didn't last long. That didn't even last a full season, that strategy, because that was dumb. But I'm pretty sure that was it. So
and you don't need everything.
You don't need it all. You don't need
everything
stands
for every
and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my funny story about Jim and I learning to. And so that was in 2017 or 2018, and both of us still train at that same gym. So
that you were allowed back is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they let us back. And the coach became a very special part of my life. So there's that too.
Well, there you go. And do you now still run 10Ks, or was that like one and done?
No, I still, so 10Ks is would be semi-regular. 5Ks quite regular, just as something to, if we're traveling and there's a park run or something on, we'll go and do a park run or whatever. The longest I've ever ran still is 21Ks, and I'd really like to do a longer one. Yeah, but that was sort of cheating though, because that was a Spartan where they have the obstacles. So it was like,
that's hard. Those are hard. I've done those.
This one was at Bright, so there was a lot of elevation, but it was easy because it was just like there's always something coming up. Like, soon there'll be an obstacle, or soon there'll be something.
An objective each time.
And that felt more like it was broken up, whereas I'm quite scared of a long, non-stop run. It worries me.
It's a bit of a casual flex of Spartan half marathon was just easy.
Oh, no. I heard it too, Sophie.
I didn't say it was easy. I had to walk uphill, a bit of it and stuff like that. That's the other thing that I never realized, is that it's okay to walk on these longer runs sometimes. I mean, this isn't a long run for you. Like the half marathon for most runners is like a sprint. For like an ultra runner, they're like that. You know what I mean? Like it can be ran pretty fast. But I'm assuming anything in the distances you're talking about, there's going to be some walking happening, especially if there's a steep hill.
And spewing, apparently. Yeah. Lots of spewing.
Look, and do you know what? That's less frequent for other people. For me, totally. I think I think the perception is really interesting. Thinking about what we kind of put ourselves through and what becomes our normal kind of thing. So I remember the first marathon I ran. I don't think I moved beyond a snail's pace for like 2 weeks afterwards, because I physically couldn't. But, as your body adapts, it really, it becomes your normal. And that's what you're looking for, right? In anything. And so, great example was, couldn't walk for 2 weeks after doing my first marathon, but yet on Good Friday, I did 50Ks in the Blue Mountains. And then Saturday, I ran an hour and 15 minutes of stair repeats. And then on Sunday, I ran 10Ks with intervals, because that's the training block that I'm in. So you're looking for that load. And I think it's really important from a work perspective, the idea of having getting your first couple of weddings or your first couple of shoots and whatever it is, and then suddenly having to kind of manage the diary with not only the shoots that you've got, but the editing and the how you find the clients, the marketing strategies and the networking, and if you're a wedding photographer and you want to get into the wedding expo world and things like that, right? Like it's learning the business side of photography. And getting that experience in kind of all facets of it's taking what was a passion and into a business.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's really great.
Apparently, Bruce says vans are the worst for running in, not recommended. Wendy wasn't keen on my Nike Skater Boy shoes. You know what? To be honest, the running shoes I bought after that actually gave me blisters. I was like, I didn't get blisters in my stupid skate shoes.
Get in my Vans?
Yeah, in my Vans. Anyway, let's get back to you. Let's get back to your photography journey and things like that. But I can promise you, Greg and I will be working hard on a harness for you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll do our very, very best.
Because there's a few people out there that have threatened to put a hit out on Justin should it not happen. And Scott Virtue comes to mind immediately.
Yeah.
You know how you have those
BFOP
like
was
crowd.
eye-opening.
Was it?
Well, just
You know how
just
you have
the-
those like crowdfunding, those crowdfunding events, and you're like, it's not a GoFundMe for a double strap. It's here's a list of people that are going to hunt you down if you don't.
Yeah, it's the reverse. Yeah, it's like do it or
listen
else.
to
not
just listen to the people. Just
listen to the people. Hey, we know.
have no choice.
I've had, like I said, I think we've had prototype. Jim's still run. I've got one. Jim's got one. A guy in the US has got one. Prototypes that have been for I think Jim would have done easily 100 or 150 year weddings with his. Yeah,
All
sorry, go on.
guys. Interesting.
All guys.
All men.
Look.
I heard
There's
it too,
three.
Sophie.
It's not really a big sample size. I'm sure if I
However,
had made 100, it might have gone beyond that. Jim was my business partner.
Yeah,
and then
how
the other
tall
guy.
and how broad is he?
Yeah,
but
exactly.
What Jim wears is not what I'm going to wear. I'm just saying.
He's the other end of the outlier spectrum. I'm like, if it fits Jim, it should fit most, and then I need the other end.
Yeah, you need women.
Yeah.
I need women and small ones, ideally.
Yeah.
So either you or Lisa Leach, who says I'm 5
me.
foot and a smidge, and they struggle to carry gear
smidge.
is real.
5
And a
foot, 5
smidge.
foot plus tax. That's what I call myself.
Yeah.
I caught up with Lisa last week, and I had to do a long exposure shot, and I just sat the camera on her head and used her as a tripod because she's so small. So that's a terrible joke. Why did you go there?
Greg.
Sorry, Lisa.
Glenn Lavender's in the chat. He says, "Can you do a harness that also lifts and separates my man boobs?" Yeah, we'll put that on the list, Glenn. Absolutely
Noted.
Noted.
I don't have
Just
any
pull
boobs,
back.
so I can't even recommend a bra that does that. Sorry, mate.
Oh dear. Where were we?
Sorry.
Let's
Photography.
let's dig a
boobs.
little bit deeper into your journey before we get to the multitude of genres that you do professionally, shoot professionally, and the two sides of that coin that you constantly flip. Let's find out a little bit about where this all began for you. Now, I know you studied fine art photography in, was it Nottingham?
Nottingham
Trent University. Some years ago, we'll just say some years ago.
Fancy.
We'll be kind. But before that, what inspired you to head down the path of photography? Where was that first spark for you?
My dad bought me my first camera when I was 4. Now, I don't necessarily, wouldn't connect the two and be like, oh, here's my origin story, but I do remember that very vividly. My dad was really into photography, and I remember him showing me some prints from when he was probably in school and stuff. And, he always had a camera or a video camera, and he used to, do the home video thing back in the day when the home video cameras were this big. Yeah. And so he used to love editing videos. And I've still got like Pink Floyd in my head from the soundtracks that he would overlay for the audio. That, probably a bit of PTSD there. And I think that the biggest jump towards photography was when I was at school. So I went to boarding school in the UK. My dad was in the military, so he was in the RAF. And in the Air Force, certainly in the UK, you get funding to send your children to boarding school. So they have that consistency of education because you move houses every 2.5, 3 years. And that's not just to the next suburb. That's, we would move. I was born in Scotland. We moved from Scotland to Devon, which is, for anyone that doesn't know the geography of the UK, that's one end of the country it's through a country to the other end. I then moved to America. I moved back to Scotland, and then I moved all around England. So, in terms of exams and, continuity of an education, it's zero. So the military provide that funding. So I went to boarding school. And I was very lucky in that I had an amazing art teacher. I don't think I was ever amazing at art, but I connected with it more. And I later found out at university, I found out I was dyslexic. I was diagnosed with dyslexia in my second year of uni. So I think the learning aspect of the academic subjects pushed me more towards the arts because it was a creative outlet that I wasn't being judged on my spelling, my ability to write, coherent sentences and not make spelling mistakes, and not having to learn a language and things like that, or maths. My brain just did not work like that.
Yeah.
And, you know, even the concentration thing, you know, I then found out as an adult, as I think most creatives do, you know, get the ADHD diagnosis and you're like, oh, okay, that explains a lot. And so I think all of those things kind of, pushed me into a much stronger kind of art space. And then when I was doing my A-levels, which is kind of the English equivalent of a HSC, my year was the first year that they changed the education system. In the first year of your A-levels, they made us do 5 subjects instead of 3, and we only did one of them for a year. So it was kind of like a short course, and it was called an AS level. And I don't know if that still exists anymore. It probably doesn't, because it was a dumb system. It kind of just meant that you did a subject for like 7 months and then gave it up. And so I picked up photography as what was only going to be an AS level, and just do it for the year. And my art teacher pulled me to the side and went, Soph, love you. However, art is not your thing. Photography is your thing. Go do that. And she said, you need a tool to create something. And the camera was the tool. I always had a real interest in people and their stories, but I needed something in between me and them to create that story and to tell that story. And it still allowed me to interact with people without, you know, having to then create something that was literally kind of all me, you know, in in the way that you know, painting or drawing was for me, kind of thing. So so I dropped art, carried on with photography, and just kind of poured everything into it, you know. And I think we are the summation of the people that we meet along the way. And my photography teacher, his name was Mr. Hodge. He was amazing. He was kind of the young, trendy teacher in the all-girls school. So there was probably a few crushes that were happening for, you know, like 16 and 17-year-old girls. Poor guy. I felt so sorry for him. And yeah, it was just like, I found that affinity with it. And I just kind of went, this is what, enjoying something and being able to explore something freely, because that's what, you know, education is all about, right? It's kind of is that learning and that journey. And you know, everything was filmed. We had our own darkroom at school, so you know, I shot on a Pentax film camera that I think my dad bought me from, you know, like a secondhand camera store for £20 or something like that. You know, one lens, that was it. Developing all my own black and white film, you know, learning that process, and then decided to go and study it at a university. And Nottingham Trent was had a really renowned art school, and they had the most incredible facilities. You know, they had 3 full studios with, you know, the white dioramas, infinity curves in there, all the lights you could, really? You know, we could hire. They had a photography store to hire stuff from that was all free. So I shot on like Mamiya 6.7s for 3 years straight, because I'd literally just go and like get it out and then take it back in. And so, you know, and it was an expensive course, because, you know, you're buying your own film, your own chemicals, your own paper. They had a full color dark room with machines, a full black and white, huge black and white dark room, and they even had enlargers that were like so big to do real like large format stuff. So, you know, imagine like the size of the wall is just, you know, completely blank, and they had proper like railway tracks built into the floor to roll back this enlarger, because it was just it was so big. It was like the size of a small car. So I got to do some really cool stuff and learn a lot in that
was
space.
This essentially the same school the whole way through, like maybe different campus or something like that, but was the same? Is this university, or is this the school you're talking about?
This is university. So So boarding school. Yeah, boarding school was just we had a small dark room that was you know, kind of an overgrown cupboard kind of thing. But then when I went to university, the facilities there were just absolutely incredible. And some really incredible lecturers that I definitely did not appreciate as much as I should have. Now, you know, in hindsight's a wonderful thing.
I think everyone can look back as adults and think, gosh, if I would love to do that course now, I would actually apply myself and,
Oh.
and just
Yeah.
extract everything I could out of it. But when you're younger,
Yep.
you don't always see all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I remember there
widely
being,
yet.
no, your brain's not fully developed. Like I remember being, being at uni in my first year. And so I went straight to university. So I was 18 and there were mature students who were on the course who were 24. And I just remember going like, oh my God, you're so old. You're so
old.
so mature. You're so grown up. Oh my God, you must have all the answers and all this kind of stuff. Like it's just, it was crazy. And, and I was a very, studious student, like I we went out and we drank and we partied and we did dumb stuff, but I went to every lecture, I did every project. Like I wasn't one to not go. I still had that appreciation of I'm here to be educated and to there's an end goal of having a degree at the end of it, and I'm not going to throw that away. I'm not going to waste it. Like this was, for me, that was my ticket out. That was, my way of getting out of home and but
starting your own life.
Well, yeah. And I have 2 alcoholic parents. So I grew up in a very unstable household. And that, I think I saw through going to boarding school and then going to university, I saw what normal was, in whatever spectrum you want to call normal. And I kind of went, oh, and it wasn't until I was about 16. I just remember going to someone's house one weekend and just, there was a dinner that everyone sat down at together and there was no yelling and, no wine being thrown around and stuff, and going like, okay, I want that.
Yes.
That's what I want. And so the drive became like, how do I make that happen?
Yeah, right. What was boarding school like? What age did you start boarding school?
11.
11. And what was that? What's it like? How long are you? Because you're away. You're staying at boarding school. How long are you away for? And like what sort of stints? And what is it like? Are the teachers the same people that also kind of like an 11-year-old still needs looking after? You know what I mean? Like who looks after you at boarding school?
That's a good question. So our boarding school is a very small school. So we had there were 160 girls in the whole high school, so 11 to 18 years old. And it's these beautiful old houses, like Victorian houses in Oxford. So literally the classrooms were downstairs and the bedrooms were upstairs. Okay. So age 11, I got dropped off. As we remember these randomly significant moments in our lives. And I remember my first night being dropped off with my dad and unpacking. We had these shared dormitories, which were about 4 to 6 girls in them, and they were all varying ages. So from, in the UK, you do your GCSEs when you are 15, 16, kind of in year 10, I think kind of works out as like year 11 here because we go to year 13 in the UK. And so you have kind of a girl from each year in your room. And so the idea being that the oldest girl is kind of there to just kind of oversee and, make sure everyone's okay and stuff. From a staffing perspective, we had we had a house mistress, and this is how old I am. We had a matron. So we had a matron who lived on, kind of in the school full time. And it was her job to look after all the boarders. She was the school nurse as well during the day. And we had a couple of staff that lived on site as well, which now feels weird thinking about that, but whatever. And, they tended to be kind of single women who hadn't, had a partner and got married, and it was, obviously free accommodation for them. So, and then we also had we also had gap girls who were these kind of 18, 19-year-olds. So they just finished high school, and we always had one Australian and one Canadian gap girl. and they'd come and do their gap year over from here, from Canada. And they were kind of the fun ones, you know, they were that kind of intermediary, not a teacher, you know, and they would come and like help with sports lessons, and they'd be around in the evenings to kind of make sure everyone was okay. And they'd be there in the morning to make sure we all went to breakfast or whatever. And then obviously they had free rent and board, and then during the school holidays they would go off and do their little bit of travel, and weekends they'd go and party and whatever else. And actually, very funny story, so bear in mind this is Oxford, UK, right, and I live in Sydney, Australia, and I was shooting a wedding end of last year for an older couple locally, and I had this woman come and tap me on the shoulder, and I'm there, you know, camera app, double straps, not and this woman taps me on the shoulder and she goes, Sophie? I was like, yeah. She's like, Sophie Courtnidge, which is my maiden name. I'm like, yeah. She went, oh, it's Lisa. I was your gap girl at Witchwood School when you were 13 years old. And
wow.
we were just, she was obviously like super close friends with the bride and groom, and she lives in Melbourne, and she'd come up and stuff. And I was like, and this is a woman who, I've, you know, not heard from in, you know, nearly 30 years. She was, it's funny because again, like going back to that kind of, you look so old and you look so grown up, like she was 18. She had no idea about the world and how things were. And she took herself off to the UK, but I was 13 and I thought she had all the answers. And she was the most lovely, lovely human being. And she actually sent me a postcard after she finished her year at school. And that postcard was not that she lived there, but it was a picture of what was then Ayers Rock and is obviously now Uluru. And I still have that postcard, and it was, you know, talking about like maybe one day you'll come to Australia, maybe one day you'll come and see this, and you know we can hang out or whatever. And that was probably the first time I ever even heard of Australia. So then to, you know, but obviously that's, you know, you make those grand gestures or whatever. And then, 30 years later, she finds me at this wedding that I'm working at and I'm shooting at. It was just absolutely incredible.
That is crazy.
Sophie, just on that, when did you first come to Australia, and what led you here?
I followed a boy. 2008, 2009, one of those two. Been a long time. Enough to lose the accent, or to gain this one. So my now husband, he and I met. He's 10 years older than me. He and I met at work after I finished uni, got myself a job, trying to move out, we connected and we dated in secret for probably 6 months or so, and we were together for a couple of years, and then he's Australian, and he was kind of went, oh, I'm going to go back. Do you want to come? And I was 23, 24, something like that at the time. And I went, sure, sounds great. Why not? You know, you're young enough to be able to, you know, take those big hits. And I feel like I'd always made very conservative choices. You know, I always took the safe option because I was looking for that safety. And so it was probably the first like really big, like just jump straight in, figure it out later type of thing. And I think I just felt like I was young enough that if it didn't work out with him and I, which, you know, odds are, you know, 50-50, whatever, that it would, you know, that I'd still be okay. You know, you haven't kind of put roots down and, you know, big bills to pay with mortgages and stuff. And now I have all those things and it's great.
Yeah, aren't you lucky? We're all lucky.
I might just read a couple of comments out, Greg, before we dig further into this. I like this one from VTran, I'm not sure, ZE8Co, with the one with the cute pooch as the profile picture. One teacher, one comment, life changed. I think that's pretty epic if you look back, having that art teacher be like, photography, and you sent it and went for it. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. And I think you look at, you know, the role that teachers play in our children's lives, and it's make or break, right? Like they have the power to, you know, to inspire one person, you know, and I often think about, you know, in like some of the mentoring stuff that I've done, you know, if I can give that gift to one other person, like job done, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I've told this story before, so I'll keep it really, really quick. But we were in a band when I was at school, And
Oh,
I
gosh, I'm so sick
distinctly,
of hearing of this band.
remember. No, you're not, Greg.
No.
Wait till I perform for you one day. I distinctly remember our year 11 or 12 English teacher telling us in class, talking to us, because multiple of us were in the class from the band, but in a room of 30 kids. There's a better band than you that's still struggling to make it. So what chance do you have? You should just look at getting a normal job. Yeah. And it was which I think I know what he meant in terms of like, hey,
It's a
slim
tough
chances,
Yeah.
like maybe you need to have, 4 different paths laid out in front of you that could work or whatever, but you should still chase your dreams. But it definitely was, don't even bother because band's way
Manage
better
your
than you can't
Yeah.
make it. Yeah. And it was pretty, I was like, wow, this guy's not very motivational at anything.
Yeah.
But he was an English teacher.
I think I've had 2 moments like that in my life, where the first one was like our first lecture, first year of university. You sat in a big lecture hall and there's, I don't know, 300 18-year-olds and a smattering of older ones, and the head of the photography department kind of spoke, and he went, odds are maybe 3 of you will become photographers. And it was that same thing of like, the odds are stacked against you. So what do you, and I think again, he meant it as so what are you going to do about it?
I was going to say that sounds more motivational, more like, hey, you want to be one of the 3, you're going to have to work your ass off to be, if you want to be one of those 3 that make it. Is that what he meant? Or because this is definitely wasn't what our teacher was trying to say.
If he did mean it like that, I certainly didn't take it like that to start with. Like, it was a really intimidating statistic. And I think it was one of those moments where you get from the receiver of something like that, you have a choice of, you either go in your case, with a failed band behind you because clearly no one's heard you perform.
I like this.
That's it. I'm getting my guitar. We're going live right now.
He's up. Dum, dum, dum. And you have the choice of going, that's the driver. And maybe that is it. Maybe it separates I hate the term, but the men from the boys. And then from the provider of that piece of feedback, I think, and it's something that I have taken on board, maybe not directly, but subliminally, and have always been really mindful of, is the way you intend something is oftentimes, very different to how it is received. And I think especially as our job as photographers, we are in the art of storytelling. We are, in my field of work, with the people that I work with, I work in very busy and or emotive sets, and it's really important that it's how I communicate with my client, whether it's a newborn shoot or a conference at the ICC, or the sand dunes photographing Defenders and Range Rovers. It's how I communicate and how I listen, what I hear, how I interpret what my client is saying is so important to how you take photography as a business. And because my world combines pictures and stories and people, having that kind of constant overview of like all the nonverbal stuff that's going on is really important.
Yeah. And I think also when we have these mentors, teachers, sort of authority figures try to inspire us, I've experienced that too, where it doesn't feel like they're sort of reading the room. A bunch of 18-year-olds, they're still kids. They're still walking around bumping into things and scratching their heads. And for someone to come out on stage and say, well, chances are you're not going to make it. And when you're 18, that means that feels very different to when you're in your 40s or 50s, you know.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where, you know, like when stuff like that happens, I want to just kind of be like, read the room, people. Like, you know, I know you think, you know, if it was intended to be inspiring and motivational, you know, even staring out onto a whole bunch of like faces, you know, you probably pick up the fact that, you know, you could probably tweak that. You know, now you could probably use ChatGPT, right? And
how do I make this 20% more inspirational?
And 50% less condescending. I think, you know, you're built to. Human beings are built to comply, right? We're tribal human beings, and we spend our lives looking for our tribe. And I've got a teenage boy, and you know, he's in the crux of that at the moment. Is that kind of, I call it his assimilation phase, you know, where he just wants to go and find his friends and then just be the same as them, and that being the outlier is a really bad thing. And so to have something in you that's either like, I want something more than this tribe or this community is giving me, and I think that there's something more in me, and then having the bravery and the courage and then the drive to be able to go after that and to be able to pursue it relentlessly, because it's not just, oh, if I work really hard for 6 months and if I work really hard for a year, I'm going to get it, and then I don't have to work that hard, and then it's just going to roll and be easy. It's every day. It's like you were saying, Justin, about getting up early. You know, like you get up at 5:20 every morning and you go and do the work, because you know that by doing the work, not only does it, you know, in your instance, you know, you get up and you go to the gym. That's going to obviously work your physical body. It keeps you strong. It keeps you fit. But then it has this, you know, really profound onwards effect and knock-on effect of, now I'm, you know, clear-headed. Now I get to go and do the work in the other parts of my life. And that's not going to stop, right? You're not going to get to one point where you go, my body looks as great as it's ever going to, and I don't need to do anything else to it. And, you know, the effect of of me working out is now continually going to go and have an effect on my ability to perform mentally. You don't do it one day and you feel the effects. And it's the same in our business. You know, if like going on holiday as someone who's self-employed and runs their own business, you know, you don't just go on holiday and sit on a beach for a week and doom scroll and read a book and drink a cocktail. You know, you're on the phone and you're still doing this, and and I'm just going to answer this email, or I've just got to jump onto LinkedIn and you know, put this post up or whatever, because it is every single day.
Yeah. I go on holidays and I listen to audiobooks about business. That's my.
There you go.
That's how I relax. Now, all right. Actually, I do want to talk to you about your businesses, but first, let me check in with a couple more comments that come through. JC Orange, watching from Perth, WA.
Hey, JC.
Thanks for joining. The plumber Matt. Matt was actually at my gym this morning. He's a plumber, indeed. He says good morning, and he should go back to the start of the show if you missed it, Matt, because that's where the stuff you want to hear about is, which is the long distance running. Matt recently just did his first half Ironman. And,
congratulations!
Finished in 5 hours and 45 minutes. An amazing effort. We were running. We're doing a nice run the other morning together, and we're just sort of cruising. My heart rate was at like 150 something, and I peeked at his watch, and his was at 120. And I was like, he's not even moving. He's not even. He's basically sitting on a couch.
Yeah.
I was like, he's obviously all that training worked. David Mascara says Edward Weston had Ansel Adams in larger in Carmel. As a photo student in Monterey, we got to visit. Same thing. It was on a railroad track. That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some little masters names in there. Nicely done.
Yeah. I got to visit that area. Just drive through Carmel and Monterey. It's near Santa Cruz and stuff in California. It is beautiful. There's a reason there's a lot of people along that coastline. It's north of California. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Lisa Leach says, I was a school nurse at an all-girls boarding school and the girls called me Mama. That's awesome.
Oh, well, you must have been a very special person to them, Lisa, because I definitely did not call my matron mama. It was a very scary individual. So I'm glad they had you. That's awesome.
Just the title matron carries with it a dark omen, doesn't it?
Oh, wait.
It feels like a matron, someone that hits you with something if you do the wrong thing. That's what it feels like. I don't know if that's true, but that's what it feels like.
Well, I remember breaking my scaphoid in my thumb, my right hand, and I'm right-handed, in playing hockey at school. And I had like a clash of like two hockey sticks. And it was broken for a week before she took me to go and get it x-rayed.
Oh.
She was like,
that's the level of
it's turning purple.
What else?
It's this big.
What else have we got here? Matt Palmer says holiday equals multi-day photo shoot.
Yes,
that's a hazard of what you do for a living, Matt. Obviously,
Combine
Bruce
that
Moyle,
for being. You go.
Oh, I was just going to say, Bruce Moyle says, I suck at holidays. I cannot do more than one day without needing to do something. Who else have we got here? Oh, Nev Clark. How's that Q3 going, Nev? My photography teacher had a profound impact on me. We built our own darkroom and fundraised for our own cameras because the school couldn't afford to buy us cameras. # work ethic. Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
And what a way to, and what a way to set that in, that kind of intention, right? Like I say to my kids all the time, like there's these really, like that's a really adult skill, to be able to have that drive and perseverance and go, this is what we want to go and do, and we're gonna make it happen. If you can master that when you're at school, like that's a golden ticket for life, right? Like you don't lose that ability. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
Very, very true.
Okay, what about your businesses? Sophie, you running two distinctly different brands.
Yes.
But the one business essentially, but two distinctly different brands to attract customers?
Yes. So when I first started in photography as a business to earn money, I was very much in the kind of weddings, families space.
Mm-hmm.
Then I had kids, and then it opened up this whole a whole new realm of newborns, and that kind of took me down a rabbit hole. And it was funny, like it was just this really organic journey that I went down, because it wasn't something that I kind of went looking for. It just kind of came to me. And so that was my business for probably the first 10 years of my career. And then slowly I started to kind of get a few opportunities to shoot more kind of corporate stuff. Made a lot of mistakes because I tried to just kind of shoot it under one umbrella, and I assumed that a corporate client was the same as a family client, personal client. And then COVID happened. And I felt like, being a wedding photographer, then became illegal. And I lost my entire business and became a kindy teacher in the space of one weekend. And it was a really scary time. And then after COVID, I felt like, this is maybe just a Sydney observation. I felt like a lot of the corporate commercial photographers, because we all need to earn $1 and job seeker was not enough. A lot of people, I think, went back into some kind of full-time employment, and then they recognized the benefits of a regular paycheck, superannuation, not having to, your tax not being complicated, and expenses and GST, and, let alone having time off, and, getting paid time off suddenly is, something that we're not used to. So it kind of just opened up this kind of gap in the market. So I just started getting these inquiries from left, right, and center to be like, hey, there's this conference and will you shoot this? And it just kind of rolled from there. And I learned very quickly, and I decided very quickly that as you talk about those two different brands, if I'm a if I'm a couple getting married and I'm looking for a wedding photographer, or if I'm a mum looking for family photos for my family, I don't want to see, I don't need to see, I don't care about seeing photos of, you know, an event, you know, or a car, or the inside of you know, a house, or, you know, architectural photography. Like that's not something they're going to connect with. It's not going to tell them their story, and it's not going to sell them the idea of them in these pictures. So I had to keep them separate. And the same was this, you know, you want, especially as a woman, as a female photographer trying to work in that commercial space, it's really, I have to be really mindful about how I portray myself, and I would say more so than a male photographer, to be taken seriously in this world. And so having pictures of, you know, pretty brides and grooms at sunset on my website when I'm trying to bid for work with Jaguar Land Rover or Tesla or Amazon or MailChimp, that's not going to get me that business. So I have to look at both entities as, you know, it's two sides of the same coin, because it's me, it's my skill, it's my experience. But the conversation you have, the story you tell, and what people see is what they want to invest in. So it's like when you walk into a show home and, you know, they say the you know, the kitchen sells the house. When people furnish homes to go on the market, they make it, you know, they want to sell the potential buyer the idea of them living in this space as it looks now. And that's what you're selling.
And then they move all their cruddy stuff in there, like, oh,
this
is nothing like it looked like. All right, I want to. So this. Do you think that and this is just your thoughts, not what's necessarily going on in their heads, but do you think that a commercial client would potentially look at a female photographer that has pictures of, say, newborns and weddings and stuff like that, and just think, oh, that's just like a mum photographer or something that does work on the weekends? They're not. Do you think it's that? It's not the fact that it's like a male versus female. It's this perception they've got of like, oh, they're just kind of doing it as a part-time thing. They're not a serious photographer. And I think
it's those two things married together 100%.
Yeah, okay.
I think, and that's not just my perception of something. That's real life conversations that I've had. So I shot for Ironman, Port Macquarie Ironman, which is a championship race. I was on the media team, and the debrief that we got the night before the event, with the other male photographer who was also on the media team. We introduced ourselves, and he was like, "So, what kind of photography have you done before? Have you done many races? What kind of stuff do you do?" And I was like, "It's hard for me to look big and intimidating, but like talk about ruffling." It drove me up the wall, and it's like every time you have to kind of prove your credentials, and you know your the time, the energy, you know, and it's like, you know, you kind of want to turn around and be like, "Mate, I have a 6-figure business. Like, this is not something that I'm, you know, this is not a weekend. I've done that, you know, like, you know, talk about origin stories. Like, yes, 100%. That's where my business started. But there's a reason that I'm here. And it's not just because I know a guy. It's, you know, I have as much right to be here as any one of you. And, you know, the problem is yours. It's not mine. Your opinion of me is none of my business. And so I'm not going to sit here and kind of, you know, show you the brands and let you look through my website and, you know, prove that I'm going to be here. But God damn it, I'm going to go out and do a good job. And, you know, in terms of how I see that personality type interact with, you know, clients or participants or delegates or whatever, compared to the way that I interact with them, I'm like, there's a reason that I get the work. And, you know, and so I think it's a really hard, especially some of the areas that I'm trying to kind of break into at the moment. Like I love shooting cars, absolutely love it. And that's something that I'm really trying to kind of focus in on at the moment is, you know, how to grow that side of my business. And it's amazing to look at the reception that you get because you're a woman with a camera, that automatic, exactly like you said, Justin, like, oh, she must just be a part-time photographer, or, she just photographs like mums and babies. So I keep my things very separate, where I, what I advertise and what I advertise. So say like on LinkedIn, you will never see, wedding photos or family photos that I've done on LinkedIn, because it's not the space for it. It's a professional networking site. So long answer to a simple question.
Good answer.
I want to, great answer. I want to ask you about LinkedIn. So I reckon Jim and I got a little tiny taste of what you're talking about. Obviously different because we're not women. But we built a business around wedding photography, and we've done a lot of commercial work, but our business was always like wedding photography. That was us. That was what we put out into the world, because that's what we're trying to build a business around. And then recently, the last few years, Jim's been trying to build a boudoir business, a new thing, which he's done as a separate brand, because he wanted to kind of do what you're talking about, have a separate brand or whatever. Now, this is a funny story. We got a gig shooting a motorbike race event. It was kind of a corporate content creation event combined with a race, with people from a heap of different countries all coming together, but the brand put it on, and it was to get a ton of content over the weekend. It was huge. 8 photographers, full video team, big thing. And it was funny, and we ended up having a great weekend and stuff, but we're not like in that world, in terms of a lot of these guys were car photographers and motorbike photographers that work mainly with brands. And there were some sports shooters there too, but we've done all of that stuff. Like I shoot mountain bikes, Jim rides bike shoots, and we've shot desert racing and all sorts of stuff. We've very much got the skills. But the first thing the guy said that was sort of booking the team was like, because I recommended Jim to come as well. I'm like, mate, we'll crush this, no problem. He goes, oh, Jim, he's the boudoir photographer, isn't he though? And I was like, not really. He's trying, but that's not, but he must have seen it somewhere connected to him when he's been trying to grow it. Yeah. And basically like, well, he wouldn't be able to do this job. This is a sports thing. He's a boudoir photographer. And it was, that sort of, I didn't realize that happened as much. And it obviously happens even more so where you're talking about with if they see a newborn or something and they're like, well, how's she going to suit Teslas? They're so different.
You can switch one of them off.
You can leave one out in the sun all day. Just on the topic of getting work, I just wanted to ask, do you ever find that one of your brands feeds the other? Like, do you get referrals across those two sort of elements, those two sides of the coin?
Yeah, 100%, both ways. So I've shot conferences and I've booked weddings off the back of shooting conference, like literally there and then. So day 2 of a conference, I had a woman come up to me and be like, hey, do you shoot anything else? Do you work for this company like specifically? It's like, no, I'm freelance. She's like, oh, I'm getting married in April next year, whatever. Are you available? Sure. Yeah. Like, happy to sit down and have a coffee with you. You don't have to pay a deposit for me right now. But happy to lock it in. It was that was awesome. So plenty of stuff like that. And then the other way around as well. Doing family photos, newborns, and then obviously both of one or both of the individuals in a family, mum and dad, whatever, have jobs, and then have shot whether it's headshots, events, conferences that they're putting on, all sorts of stuff like that. So it definitely works both ways. And I think it comes down to the authenticity of the person, right? Like knowing that I like to pride myself on the fact that I'm the same person, regardless of whether I'm, photographing a family, photographing a conference, photographing Teslas on gorges or whatever. Like it's still me. And being able to connect with people is really important, and being able to, it's not about necessarily being able to shadow people, because I think that feels manipulative. But understanding everything, we're all different. And so accepting that client, whoever they are, giving them space to be able to be themselves, and helping them understand what it is they're trying to achieve, because they'll sit there and they'll look at my work, or they'll look at something that that they need to address. They've got to shoot to, I don't know, photograph products or something like that. It's helping them dig down, having a conversation, a really honest conversation, asking questions, and problem solving where you need to problem solve. It's all those skills, and we call them soft skills, and I think that's completely the wrong name for them, because I think it's being a human, and realizing that you're both trying to achieve the same thing, right? Like, you want the same outcome of, I want a happy client, and I'm going to have a happy client if I help them produce the thing that's in their head. And a lot of the time people really struggle with, like, I've got this idea in my head, but I can't quite vocalize it, or the way that I'm explaining it doesn't quite resonate with me. I'm not quite understanding it. So we're going to talk it through until I do, because until I'm on the same page as you, we can't achieve the same thing. And having that overview, like with, say, a wedding, for example, having a whole overview of the day and being able to forecast, potential issues, and being able to come to your client and be like, hey, and a classic example is this weekend, I'm shooting a wedding on Saturday afternoon, and they're getting married at a registry office in the city, and their time slot is 5:45. So it's going to be pretty much dark by the time they go in, and it's certainly going to be dark when they come out. But they don't think that. They see photos on the the registry website of, this is what the space is going to look like, and they know that the wharfs around where they're getting married look beautiful at midday when the photos have been taken, but it's going to be nighttime. So it's my job to go, hey guys, this is how we can workshop this. So we've put together a whole plan to do everything beforehand and whatever else. And that's, and it's not about blaming someone and going, you've booked your wedding to be at nighttime because the clocks have now changed. It's about working together and being on the same team as them.
Yeah. Do you think that that's a skill are they skills that you learnt at university, or are they kind of more life teaches you those skills?
I think it can be taught, and I think there is a place for almost a course like that. And I've thought about putting something together that's almost that kind of mentorship, that's very different to wanting to be a fine art photographer and go out and create art, like photography as art, which is a skill that I don't possess. I need I need more of it. Like, purpose is the wrong word, and it's suggesting that they don't have purpose, and they absolutely do. But I need to invest in another person's story to tell that story. And
that makes a lot of sense.
And I think it's something that I learnt, but I think it's something that, especially with the new age of photography that is emerging, and even the shift from analog to digital, film to digital, we are so saturated with imagery now. Whether it's stuff that we've taken, whether it's stuff we see online, marketing and advertising that's just available to us everywhere we look. I think there was a statistic that you see something like 50 million pieces of imagery or something in a day, and your brain has to process all that. And that stuff doesn't get there by accident, right? Like, it's all intentional.
Yeah.
So I think choosing to work in a field that is creative and artistic, but for business purposes, there is an aspect of running your business as a business. And I think the trick is learning those skills to enhance your business, and that's that is a skill, and it is learned. But I think there is also a place from a professional development perspective where a lot of photographers out there who work in a similar space to myself, with that kind of more commercial, client interaction kind of working space, that they can understand what those skills are, and I think it would really help them build their business, in the same way that understanding LinkedIn and stuff like that does as well.
Yeah, I just think it's when I studied, I'm in my 50s now, and when I studied university, I studied industrial design, and we learnt nothing about the business of running a business. Yet we're all expected to go out and be either work for an organization or become our own, our own design company, our own design brand. And it was something that even to this day, I often will, reach out to Justin or Jim for advice, business related advice to my current endeavors, because it just wasn't something, it didn't come naturally to me. I didn't come from a family who ran businesses, very working class, but I've always felt like that was a big gap in my education, that there was an opportunity there to say, okay, well, here's how you become a designer, and here's how you attract clients. Here's how you manage your professional side of your business. That was really lacking. And I'm always curious to talk to people about that. Is that something that is improving in education?
And I think it's, I don't know if the landscape of that has changed more recently. Maybe it has. I probably can't comment on that. But I think with with the development of AI, there's a lot of people. I've had a few emails now from photography students who are, being super brave and reaching out for work experience, which is great. However, they have very clearly used ChatGPT and gone copy paste. Write an email to a photographer asking if I can have some work experience. And you can tell from the way that it's worded and the punctuation and the how many adjectives it uses. Yeah, absolutely. And and I've gone back to them and said, thank you very much for your email. I think it's great. I really, I think it's really impressive that you are a young person and you're going out on a limb there. I don't tend to use a lot of, students and stuff. If anything changes, I will help you. I will let you know. My advice to you is 100% use ChatGPT, use an AI to build this stuff as a draft, but go and make it human, because you can tell that it's ChatGPT. And I think we're at a real risk of people leaning too much into that. I was CC'd in on some emails for some kind of brand ambassador stuff a couple of weeks ago, and it was very clearly just one AI talking to another. Like, it was literally just like, this is the email I've received, come up with a reply to it that that hits these points, copy paste. I've received this email, Dilla, and it was like there's no humanness in it anymore.
Yeah, it's a real risk, and it's a real risk at the moment, that sort of stuff. My partner Sasha, she's a university lecturer, and just the anecdotal discussions we have about her experience with students using ChatGPT, and students, and a couple of years ago, the software that the universities bought and employed to detect like the use of AI in submitted assignments and texts and things like that, that stuff no longer cuts through. It's proving to be more and more difficult to detect AI written context. And the big challenge with that stuff is that these are people applying for professional roles, like people that want to be nurses and doctors and life-saving and really critical roles in our community, and they're not actually memorizing or learning any of the content. They just let a bot create a summary. And the biggest problem I have is that the software that we have to run our lives in this world is constantly trying to force AI down our throats. I use Apple Mail on my laptop, and it's constantly offering to reply for me or to create a summary or like it's kind of it's being shoved in there. And and to a 18, 19, 20-year-old, well, of course I'm going to save a few minutes and just go, yep, do that.
Even
you know?
predictive text, like my
Yeah.
my 10-year-old yesterday, like I was texting a friend, it's her birthday today, happy birthday, Sarah. And, I was just asking, kind of, what are you doing tomorrow, blah, blah, blah. And she texts back, and River, my younger one, was like, oh, can I reply to this text? And he was like, your options are, sounds great, whatever the three iPhone options were from it. And I was like, no, if you're going to reply to someone, you reply with your thumbs. And it's scary because I think, again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with that kind of habit setting and intention and being in the cycle of continuing to work and have that perseverance and drive and be a part of the grind. If you start to take those exits of, this is the easy option, this is AI answering this email, and this is ChatGPT telling you what to post and when to post it, you actually do yourself a massive disservice because you get out of the habit of doing the work. And our brains like easy. It's like our brains are like a waterfall in that water is going to constantly look for the path of least resistance. Our brain wants to do that too. Yeah, because it's a preservation thing. And so you have to tap into that habit and constantly feed that, like getting up and going to the gym at 5:20 every morning, like getting up and ticking the box of, I'm going to do the run that's programmed for me by my coach. I might not want to do it, but I know that it's going to feed the next thing.
Yeah. I want to do a little public service announcement for any young photographers that may have found this episode. Chances are our demographic isn't really that. I don't know what it is. Maybe we just, we're so dignified that we get a slightly older crowd. But if you are young and new to photography and you want to build a career in this world and you are using AI to write emails, and the email is the least connected form of communication. There's telephone after that. Video chats like we're doing now, and then there's in-person stuff. If you can't write a personal email, you are gonna get crushed by people like me and Sophie that can walk into a room and talk to people face to face, like Sophie was saying, figure out what they're trying to get out of this. This is a business. They're trying to get something out of this. My job is to get them what they want. I've got to figure it out, and I've got to make sure everyone's having a good time and happy at the same time. Same at a wedding. Yeah. You will have, there's no point you doing work experience if you can't walk into a room and communicate with humans on a human level and deliver 100%. What they want. So lean into figuring out how to communicate. Don't shy away from it.
Yep, absolutely.
Write the emails. Get on the phone. Hey, Sophie, I know you don't have time, but could we have a 15-minute phone call? Because I just have a few questions about what it's like to be a professional photographer in 2026.
100%. And do you know what? And any photographer I know will have that phone call with you.
Exactly.
And I've had it from photographers in my local community. Like I've had photographers call me up and go, hey, Soph, I know you work more in this space. I've got a client who, I normally do X for, and they've thrown me this curveball of they've got this event, and I don't know how to charge for it. What would you normally charge? And, we're all here, I'd like to say there's plenty of work out there. Like I think the landscape is definitely changing. But I'm not the gatekeeper of all the secrets. And I think most photographers would feel the same way. I would like to think anyway. And you're right. Like it's about, there's a certain amount of bravery in it, and in that instance with the student, I wrote back to them and said, by all means, use ChatGPT. I think it's a great tool to get a first draft, to get some ideas down, to kind of get the ball rolling. Because we live, as photographers, very isolated lives. Like we get to go and, if you're shooting a wedding or conference or an event or whatever, yes, we're out there and we're with the people and you're surrounded by, and then we come home. And then we sit in our, empty houses, and this is it. It's quite an isolating feeling. And, kind of going back to what you were saying before, Greg, about, the business skill side of things and not having that kind of network, and that guidance from somebody, I think we're all in that same boat, you know, and so that's why I think it's really important that we do lean on these shared networks and these shared experiences with each other, and we create our own little community. I often joke about, you know, my friends who also work from home, like, I just want to sit at a desk next to someone some days, you know, like we do completely different things, but just having that like almost body doubling thing of like, I feel like I'm going to be more, you know, more productive if I've just got that little, like a body there, because sometimes you do just kind of crave that personal connection a little bit. And it does mean, you know, you are, you know, developing those skills. And I think when you're like, to your point, Justin, of like walk into a room and go and have a conversation with someone, you know, if there's one of the things that I think I like to try and do every day with my business is I want to be able to go to bed knowing I've done something productive. And then sometimes that's editing, sometimes that's networking, sometimes that's making the calls and doing the big in business stuff. And sometimes it's like, actually, you know, I'm feeling really, you know, kind of introverted and overstimulated and overworked and tired, but I'm still working those skill sets. So, you know, when I go and buy a coffee or I go for a walk with them, and I make myself have a conversation with someone, and that's a skill.
Yep. Absolutely.
You know, it's funny. It's an unintended benefit of actually of going to the gym that after we joined, that I realized is because, you know, when you work at home alone all day, it's the same group of people that usually rock up to the same class time as me. So it's kind of almost like they're almost like workplace relationships, because, you know, we chit chat about family or the weather or the whatever. You kind of get that like
you get that dose of it, don't you?
Yeah, a daily dose of just like, yeah, what's up? You know, what's been going on? Oh, yeah, you know, I bought a new bike. Oh, that's cool. You know, like,
and you know what that also is that it is that I think is really important is it's a benchmark. So, you know, if you are the kind of person who, you know, who does spend a lot of time by themselves, and, you know, the weight of the world gets on top of you and things and stresses and stuff happen, to have those people that you do have that regular connection with and you do get to spend that time with, when you're not okay, for them to be able to go, like, you're not the same today. Like, you've pitched up at 6 a.m. and you know, you're not either quite as chatty, or your tone or your body language or whatever. And so to have that, you know, that little core group to be able to check in with, or to kind of challenge you, because we all do the same thing, right? Like, yeah, no, I'm fine. They're like, no, really, are you okay? I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely.
For sure.
Let's pivot for a moment, if we can. Let's talk about gear for a little bit. Now, I'm not going to criticize or judge you for being a Canon shooter, because Justin gets enough of that from me, so he can be my voodoo doll for today. Where are you at with your gear? You said you're often going out with twin bodies. What, you know, for an event, let's say a wedding, what's your go-to kit?
Yep. So I was actually a Nikon shooter for 20 years. So I had, interesting, I guess. So started on film, moved to, you know, went digital, bought a digital camera. And I think we tend to start out and then subsequently stick with our kind of first interaction with whatever that technology is, right? Because it's comfortable. So the first wedding I ever shot, I borrowed a camera. He was a friend's husband. He was in the army, and he was supposed to be shooting this mutual friend's wedding, and he got deployed to Afghanistan, so he was no longer available. And he went, Sophie, do you want to shoot it?
Good
like
excuse.
It was, you know, absolutely. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm busy that day. And he shot on I'm going to say a Nikon D70. So not the first iteration of digital, but not too far beyond that. And then did that, whatever. And so then when I was in the market to buy a digital camera, I stuck with Nikon because I'd used it. I was comfortable with it. And I also had that source of knowledge to be able to go, hey, John, can you help me? And so I started on Nikon, and obviously then you buy the lenses and you buy the speed lights, and, you know, that becomes your kit. And so to be able to make that change is a very costly exercise, even if it's just one body and one lens, right? As well as then the skill set that then goes alongside making that switch. So I was shooting, it was probably 3 years ago. I was shooting a conference for MailChimp in Sydney, and it was a 2-day conference. And halfway through day one, my Nikon, just the screen on the back just stopped working. So I could still see through the viewfinder. It was still taking photos. It was still reading. It would show me the review of the image on the back screen, but then I couldn't hit play. It had no menu functions, no nothing.
Yeah, wow.
Weird.
So luckily, I have been doing this for a very long time. I shoot completely manual, so I'm very much used to looking at, my aperture and exposure and exposure readings and stuff. And it was a fixed lighting, it was an indoor conference. It was all artificially lit, and so nothing was different. So I knew I could get through it, and I knew the card was still writing. So I kind of had that as I knew I could get through the day. And I messaged my friend Jen from Canon, who has been my best friend for 12 years. And she has been trying to get me to switch for a very long time.
I was going to say, took a while, didn't it?
Yeah, and she's priced it up for me beforehand, and I'd actually wanted to switch for quite a few years, not because she's bigger than me and scarier than me, but so we'd kind of gone down that path a couple of times, and I just couldn't afford it. Like, it just wasn't financially viable. And so I just messaged her. I went, my camera has expletives itself. I don't care what you give me, but I need a camera because I can't do this for 2 days straight. And so I shot the rest of that conference that day. She lives 400 meters down the road from me. So as I was driving home that night, I stopped off at her house and picked up this big ass camera bag and went, cool, now I'm going to learn how to shoot mirrorless Canon. Great.
Overnight.
So then the next day I took my Nikon just as a backup, but I was just very fortunate that in that instance, the conference, it didn't need thousands of images, right? There was plenty of time. Each speaker that was on stage for an hour. So I had plenty of time to do that instead of that. And
I forgot.
Where does the thumb go? Like looking like an absolute rookie.
Why do they zoom different directions? I forgot about, because I've switched from Canon to Nikon and then back to Canon again. And that's probably the most annoying part of it is the and so mounting the lens as well, like getting used to mounting it the other way, and zooming it the other way. And you're just like, why?
Yeah, I know, because they can, because there has to be a point of difference, right?
That's right.
So I picked up I think she had an R, like the original R, which was the original Canon.
Yeah, wow.
And the R5.
Yeah. Better.
And a couple of lenses, probably 24-70 probably in there. And I literally just shot on that for, that whole day. And I kind of went, I like this. And I had to continue to use it while I sent mine off to Nikon. And this is not a Nikon bashing exercise, but I will say that the Nikon presence for professional services and things like servicing and stuff in Australia is not as great as Canon's. Certainly from my experience, like having to find a local provider, send it off, wait to get the quote, figure out. Like it took weeks. I think I was using her equipment for. I think I still have her R5. I hope she's and then
she's not listening.
She's probably out somewhere. So I then just ended up I fell in love with the R5. It was awesome. She wouldn't sell me, so she works for Canon. She wouldn't sell me an R5 because she was like, insider trading, the Mark II's coming out. Sorry,
awesome.
She definitely didn't do that.
No.
Delete? Can we go back?
We're live. It's out there. Don't worry.
It's too late. It's done.
They're tough secrets to hold on to. We were aware because we did the straps bundle straps for the R5 and the R5 Mark II, and it's just you just have to become like a Volt once you know that
absolutely.
you know that information. But also like one thing, the only thing I knew about the R5 Mark II was that it was the R5 Mark II.
Yeah.
And that's it's quite easy to tell that that's a camera that's going to come at some stage. And other than that, we were making the straps for the launch, and I had no idea what it was. I got all my hints from the Canon rumor sites.
yeah, absolutely. And and even then, so you always know it's coming, right? Like someone brings out a new camera, it's the evolution of technology, right? And it's going to be, a couple of years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is. If there's a new iPhone coming out every couple of years, there's a new camera coming out as well. So so she knew it was coming, and so she wouldn't sell me the and I'm lucky in that she's a pro shooter, but it's not her day job. She works directly for Canon, so she had access to all this gear, and she was like, I don't need it, and even if I do, I've kind of got a whole storeroom full of stuff, like I'm okay. So when the Mark II came out, I got that, and so I got the 24-105 2.8, which
did you?
I was not concerned. I had questions in terms
a big lens.
It is a big lens, but when you,
you got this. Yeah,
I got the guns. My weedy little runner arms. No, it's an awesome lens. So obviously, that traditional 24-70 for kind of across that kind of Nikon Canon space is your industry standard, right? For most things, and just having that extra bit. Like I was worried about image quality, kind of extending it out, but it's so sharp, it's fast, it's clean. It's heavier, but in things like a wedding or an event, just to have that extra little bit at the end of that range to get up to that 105. Like I've got a 70-200, and I very rarely use it now because I just don't need it. So when I dual shoot, I'll have that on one body, and on my R5, which is definitely mine and definitely not Jen's, I will shoot with a prime. So normally I would say 95% of the time I've got an 85 1.2 on there.
Nice.
Another heavy lens.
I know. It's my workout for the day. If I'm shooting
I guess it balances out. You need the same weight.
It actually does. I've got those hybrid lenses from Canon, which are the 35 prime and the 50. Yeah. And they're so light, like to the point where I'm like, there's no quality in this, but they're awesome little lenses. But yes, to your point, if I have if I've got the 24-105 on one and the 35, and they are identical, they weigh the same and everything, you actually like, this actually feels weird. So it's kind of good to have that weight on both sides. And then those two are good for kind of real low light, like events, kind of grungy little dive bars and stuff. Or if I'm doing a little bit of video or something as well, they're great for that.
Yeah. Plus that 24-105 is great for video as well, isn't it? In terms of, you see a lot of more professional video productions using that lens as like a one and done.
It 100%, and I've spoken to quite a few videographers, if there's been a videographer on site, and they love it as well. And I think the only thing is obviously the weight. If you're using a gimbal or something like that, it's too heavy for. I've got the what is it? The DJI, like the mini.
The RS gimbal, the
RS4M.
So do you shoot a bit of video for your commercial work?
I'm going to out myself really badly. Yes, dog hair. How funny is that? I do shoot a little bit of video. It's very basic, and when I'm having conversations with clients, I'm very upfront and very honest about my ability in that space. I feel like as a photographer, it's really important to diversify as much as you can, because we're entering in a world where AI and video is becoming massive. And, you know, especially in the kind of social media space, and people do need videos. So I will always say to them, you know, yes, I can do some video. If you need like a little highlight reel, a little speaker reel, if you're a keynote speaker, you know, if you need some vox pops doing, I've got some DJI mics and things like that. But if you're wanting like real high level production stuff, I'm not your person, and I wouldn't put myself into that space because it's not fair to the client or to me. You know, at the end of the day, like I'll do myself out of a job and burn a bridge, and you know, that's never my intention with a client.
Yeah. Do you let's say you're booked for just a full day commercial shoot. If they want a bit of video too, do you charge extra, or are you just like, well, I'm there for the day. When I'm shooting video, I'm not shooting photos, so it's just kind of the same. Yeah. It's just the same price.
Kind of would depend on what they wanted out of it at the end, like what the deliverables would be, big deliverables. If they're wanting, you know, highlight me to do the editing on a video, then I probably would charge them a little bit more, because as we know that the editing is such a different landscape. If they are just after, you know, some kind of BTS stuff, and they've got someone, you know, internally that's going to do it, then I probably wouldn't, you know, I mainly because I just don't consider my skill set to be up there, you know, enough. And I've done quite a few shoots now where I've kind of dual shot those, like photo and video. It's really hard. And it's really important, if you're going down that road, to be really clear with your client, not to A, oversell what you can deliver on the day, but B, what their priority is, because you can't do both to the same level as you would as if you were only doing one. And I think it's really important that, and that's where I think a lot of the time when I do get a new client, a lot of the time that the feedback has been, you know, kind of, oh, we booked them to do video and photos, and it, you know, kind of wasn't that great, you know, or whatever. And they've oversold and underdelivered, and always flip it.
Yeah.
Great advice.
How do you get your big clients? Because you listed some names off. There's some names floating around on your website. I don't know if you've just screenshotted them off websites and just stuck them on there. Hope no one notices or whatever. No, there's some pretty big names on your website. Like, how do you get clients like that?
I'm very lucky. Scout. The dog has heard another dog. Hang on. I'm just going to ring my little bell. Hang on.
Oh, what does that do?
You can hear the neighbour's dog going, and he's like, oh my God, there must be something going on.
Alert the family.
Yep, alert everyone. No, so from a commercial client perspective, event management companies, I've got a really good relationship with a few event management companies and freelance event managers who I shoot quite regularly for that stuff for. So it's kind of it's their clients as well. So you know, shooting for like Mamma Mia and people like that as well. And then what I really, as I was saying before, like what I pride myself on is being able to develop that relationship with you know, with those clients themselves. So I then become a preferred supplier, whether it's kind of then independently through to them, or whether it's you know, just the ongoing, like, so that event management company gets the gigs for MailChimp, and MailChimp will always ask to use me, or that company will always ask to use me. So
it comes back to your earlier statement about, you know, that how you communicate and present to potential clients.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because you never know who a potential client might be.
100%
as well.
Absolutely. And that's worked for me, you know, a lot of times, you know, shooting, especially when you're in, say, like a corporate event, like a, you know, a networking event, or, you know, a conference of some description where you've got delegates from, you know, they've got their own cohort of their clients that are all from different companies. You know, I say it to photographers, or, you know, to my kids or whatever, where, you know, if I'm in a mentoring space with photographers, like, every shoot you're on is an audition for your next shoot, whether it's with that same client or with other people who are in the room. So act like it. you know.
Yep.
And going back to what we were talking about earlier about being able to have conversations with people, being able to have a, you know, kind of polite in passing conversation and make yourself memorable to people, not in an aggressive, salesy, I'm a photographer, here's my business card if you need something kind of a way, because I don't think that's worked one time. But just to be enough of a presence that you are then memorable in that person's life, you know, and we are very fortunate now with the technology. You know, I can Wi-Fi into my camera and pull off a photo and download it onto my phone and airdrop it to someone. And, you know, that gives me a lasting, you know, impression, you know, to somebody as well. I think LinkedIn, being present is really important. Like, you know, we talk about branding and stuff, like you have to be a brand, and being present in the you know, the internet sphere is just an absolute must. And that comes down to the grind, you know, understanding where the work is going to come from, whether it's, you know, freelancer pages on Facebook, whether it's following the brands that you like on LinkedIn and connecting with those people and being able to reach out and send the email that makes you sound like a human being. You know, I did it yesterday and ended up on a really cool call with the head of the Academy of Sport for TAFE Queensland, and had an awesome conversation with him about some sports stuff that I'm working on, and some in the wellbeing space. You know, at the end of the day, if you don't ask, you don't get. And the worst that anyone is going to say to you is no. And that doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Sophie, I'm very conscious of time, so we might sort of head into the final round of questions for you, provided you've got some time to stick around for a little bit longer.
Of course. Absolutely.
Cool.
Me and Scout, we're here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. With, you know, you've shot a lot of different genres of photography, and you've had a broad experience in dealing with a whole myriad of different sorts of clients. Is there a genre that you haven't yet tackled that you think may have something in it for you?
That's a very good question. Wipe the dog slobber off my face. I would love to get into some like bigger architectural stuff.
Okay.
I think that would be really interesting. I think, you know, as a photographer, we're always looking, and I feel like, you know, even when I'm on a run, I'm a really annoying person to run with, because I'm like, oh, stop, like, we've got to take that photo and that view and blah, 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 on my iPhone.
Yeah, I was going to say, so when you run, you only have an iPhone. Have you ever ran with a small camera? Have you ever thought about that? Or is it just like,
I would love to, but I'm too, it's when I'm running, especially in an event, I'm out there for, that's the purpose. So yeah, even a small point and shoot is heavy, it's bulky. You know, you get sweaty, it can get wet, you don't want to damage it, blah blah blah. Yeah, it's too distinct. It's like I want to be intentional with what I'm doing. You know. Yeah, architectural stuff I think would be really interesting. I love, you know, buildings, lines, cityscapes, that kind of stuff is really cool. And like I was saying before, like getting more into cars, whether that's, you know, kind of hot rods, supercars, like, you know, racing, something like that. That's kind of where I'm trying to take my focus a little bit now.
What is it about the cars that excites you? And that industry? Obviously, the hard thing with that is you're competing against like just a horde of car loving
Absolutely.
people that have just bought cameras. Like, you know, we've had Matthew Garberg on the show, who was at BFOP. I don't know if you saw the young guy that got electrocuted on stage. Did you see him? Yeah, that guy. So he's trying to make a career in photography and video. He's young and he's excited. He's going to the Bathurst 6 hours and shooting all the stuff and just you know, trying to get into that world. And obviously he doesn't have your experience, but you're kind of competing with a flood of very passionate people that are like, oh, it's my dream to shoot
absolutely
car
and
events.
you know who you're also competing with is a lot of younger people who do not necessarily have the busyness of the business and 2 kids and 2 dogs and a running hobby that takes up
Yeah.
more hours than I should really commit to, you know. So the idea of, you know, going like this weekend, it's like the Melbourne car show, but I can't go because I've got to go and pick up lights tomorrow. I've got a meeting with Sydney Wanderers in the morning, pick up lights. Saturday, I'm shooting for Coca-Cola and then a wedding. Sunday, I've got 2 interior shoots. Monday, I've got headshots out in Norwest and then a branding shoot for someone on Monday afternoon. And then the same thing again on Wednesday. So I don't have time to go to Melbourne car show, let alone, you know, pay for myself to go down there and do it all for free. So yes, I'm up against, you know, people with more time. You know, I think the interesting thing about cars as well is that, you know, there's obviously a huge amount of content because, like I said, cars is a passion for a huge number of people. And it's actually where it's kind of figuring out where the money in it is. And I don't mean that in a like, give me the money. Scout, get down.
Business, for it to be viable, it's got to be a business.
Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
like you can't just be, otherwise it's a hobby. So
and as much as I would love to combine those two things, I also have, you know, a mortgage to pay and bills and kids to feed because I have teenage boys and they eat a lot of food.
Don't they?
Oh my God. So yes, it has to be viable. Exactly. So I don't have the time to go and do a lot of stuff for free. I'm trying to just kind of build a little bit of content. And I also think, you know, a lot of the time, a lot of stuff that you see, especially on, you know, Instagram and TikTok and stuff, the shoots that people are out there doing are not actually they're not being paid to go and do those shoots of those cool cars. It's the views that they're getting on TikTok and on YouTube, and it's that content stuff that's actually where the money is for them. So, you know, there's also a little bit of a like kind of actually having to realize that no one's going to go and pay me $5,000 to go and shoot their Mustang. Like that's not gonna happen.
Oh, like a private collection kind of thing. Maybe 500.
That's not going to happen. So sure. Do you know someone with one? And so I think the business acumen comes into going, okay, so my, I guess, idea a little bit is that we are at a precipice and an evolution of electric vehicles, which means that there's a lot of brands that are newer brands that are launching and coming to Australia. So like that's where I want to target and try and kind of work my way in, because they're all going to have launches and they're all going to have, you know, drive day experiences with, you know, potential clients, you know, existing clients, things like that. And so there's definitely a niche there. And that's what I'm, you know, hoping to kind of, you know, look into now.
Yeah, that's smart.
It's a very interesting niche because obviously we've got AI just coming along like a freight train where you can probably take a photo of a car and then AI it into whatever things you want and stuff. But with EVs particularly, and with the Australian market and the, you know, the classics, the Toyotas and stuff like that have been the icons of the car industry in Australia for so many years, building trust with people that EVs can be relied upon for daily life in Australia is going to take some work.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think you're right. Like real authentic imagery in Australian context is going to be important to try and build that trust with the wider population.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they're selling, you know, you're selling the J-Coupe or whatever, or the Coupe or whatever. You're selling that to a real Aussie family, and they've got to understand. They've got to have that experience of learning a new brand or a new brand identity, buying into that. And you know, in Australia, we are very brand centric, and we're very Australian centric as well. So taking overseas brands and trying to build them here is hard. It's a really hard market to break into. So it's really interesting. And, you know, like even now just kind of teaching my algorithm about, you know, I want to see stuff with cars and when car meetups are and all that kind of stuff. You know, you get the ads for the apps to, hey, take one photo of a car and then put it into these, you know, this AI world. But I think we are becoming, as consumers, we're becoming more savvy towards it as adults. Anyway, I think youth is a completely different minefield. But we are becoming more savvy to it, and we are not connecting to it as strongly as I think the Metas of the world would hope, because I think people what is always going to supersede any technology and any interaction is human connection, because we are human beings at the end of the day.
That and trust.
Absolutely.
I think trust plays a big part in the AI equation. You mentioned earlier yourself that we're a very tribal species. And when tribes form, they tend to distrust the other tribe. And, and that's been an evolution thing for us to work through. And I think, the Aussie family who wants to buy a Toyota RAV4, electric vehicle, they don't want to see it in an AI backdrop because it won't feel authentic to them. And so if that doesn't feel authentic, what else about this product isn't authentic?
Absolutely.
You erode away at that trust. And, through the work that you do and many of the other amazing people we've had on the show here, I think you're kind of the last bastion of trying to keep trust in the game, before
and I
AI
think
tries to overcome us.
100%. And across all aspects of what I do in that commercial and corporate world, the shift, and I think it's really happening now with the economy, tightening belts, budgets being cut. Businesses are starting to realize that they can use AI to generate an image of somebody looking engaged, standing in an exhibition stand, with a certain brand in there or whatever. And they might be able to use that for their marketing. And that's taken them, 7 minutes to make, as opposed to paying me thousands of dollars to be there for 2 days to capture that one image. But I think what people will start to experience from a marketing, engagement, brand awareness thing is coming back to trust. People want to see what reality looks like. And so there's a reason that, Defender, which is a luxury vehicle, will put use their marketing to put a family with a border collie and 2 kids in the back of the boot, because it denotes real life. And it denotes what people will be that fit for purpose. Is what people will use that car for the majority of people, of drivers and owners.
Yeah, very true.
Any other thoughts you have around the future of our industry with regards to whether it's AI or whether like the ever shifting landscape of social media and how we consume imagery, like all that sort of stuff? We always like to talk about meta glasses. I often say that vertical is a fad, and it won't be here particularly for video in not that long, because it's dumb and it's a crappy way to watch a video, and we're only doing it because phones are like this, but soon we're going to have glasses and vertical will be dead. What do you have any thoughts on the future of photography, imagery, social media, anything?
You clearly do.
We've got episodes of it, Sophie. Hours and hours of content.
Yeah. Look, I agree. Vertical is so dumb, but it's at the moment.
It's here for now. It's here for now, and very important.
Yes.
I get that.
And it's the consumerism thing, right? Like, you got to put it in front of people, and there's got to be no barrier to entry. So you film in vertical, post in vertical. Look, I think we are at a time where, with social media, image saturation is huge. I think the messaging is, behind it. It could be really dangerous for some people, and it probably is really dangerous for a lot of people. Mental health, issues that come from cancel culture, being bullied online, just the pure saturation of body image, or what someone's life looks like. Again, I have these conversations,
or even just feeling like you can't possibly keep up.
Absolutely. And it's overwhelming, and it's really overstimulating. And I think we need to take it with a real kind of strong dose of reality, and understand that if someone has posted something, regardless of how organic it might look, or, how real life, versus something super cinematic, it's been posted with intention. And it's a moment in somebody's life or somebody's work day or career or whatever that they have intentionally put out there for you to consume. And so it's not real life, because it has been curated, in some way, shape or form. I think one of the things that a lesson that I have learned the hard way is losing all my social media last year. So just under a year ago, Meta put me in the Meta jail, and I lost.
What did you do?
I posted a stupid video of my then 13-year-old son. We were doing a council cleanup, which I don't know if that would translate, across borders or whatever, but like curbside pickup. So in New South Wales, you can put like all the crap that you store in your garage all year from Christmas with all the boxes and, the mattresses that you're throwing out, put them out. You can book a council cleanup, council come take all that bulky goods collection. And my husband is a hoarder, and he has been holding on to these audio cassette tapes since 1995, something like that. Yep, and not just one or two, like a whole big, I'm in vertical now, so you can't see, like this massive big box of them, a whole bunch of CDs from when we moved from the UK, and he was like, I can't throw them out. They'll be, they might be relevant. And I was like, mate, take a photo of the CDs. It's like, you have an entire world of music at your fingertips, on Spotify or whatever it is. So just go download it. You probably have half of it there anyway. And anyway, I showed my son an audio cassette and said, hey, buddy, what's this? Whilst filming him. And he's there just looking at this thing going, what is this dragon magic? And he's like, oh, it's the thing that you put the pencil in and twizzle. I'm like, yep. And then I showed him a CD and did the same thing. And he's like, oh, is this like a DVD? I was like, no, this is before DVD. Anyway, it was just a series of those. And I put them on my stories on one of my business pages. And the next day I got an email from the Meta gods saying you violated community standards for child exploitation. You can submit an appeal. Yep. So I went through this full deep dive subreddit kind of journey and found out that Meta have basically replaced all of their human security people with AI. And so AI just goes and does this massive mind sweep of accounts and goes, here's a picture of a chocolate chip cookie. It must be a Chihuahua. And I don't know if anyone's seen that meme. It comes from a real, anyway, and so Meta AI have looked at, my page with a picture of it with a video of a child on there and gone, that must be exploitation of some varying degree or other. So it's, so I lost everything. They've deleted all my accounts, including my Facebook, my personal Facebook, which is 20 years old and has pictures of my wedding and when my husband and I first got together and uni friends and a whole life of two whole human lives of my children. So I've lost it all, which in the grand scheme of things is social media. It doesn't matter. But from a business perspective, I think I'm very lucky in that I don't get a lot of business through Instagram, so not Instagram so much. Facebook I did through a lot of referral pages. It took me about 3 months to be able to open a new account. My device is flagged, so there are still Instagram accounts that I can't access on my phone because it reads it. Get down, because it reads it as this device is a problem. And so that's been really hard. So that was a real lesson from a business perspective of you can own the house, but you do not own the land. So for any photographers, and I would go past that and say any small business owners, any freelancers, your client list is your entire business. Forget about who you're going to meet, how you're going to develop your business, how you're going to grow it. But that client list is everything. And so, we talk about, like email marketing, not being dead is the big message from people like MailChimp, for example. But it's really important that you find a way to diversifying your market channels, but not being so much of a generalist in your scope of practice, whatever that might be, that you kind of just bleed yourself you kind of spread yourself too thin. So find that niche of what you do to do it really, really well. Go after that. There's always going to be the little jobs you've got to do around it to pay the bills. 100%. Like no one is out there just doing that one. Like look at both of you. But find the thing that you love to do, make that your niche, but make sure you understand your marketing channels, and social media is not and nor should it be the solution to your developing business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's great. That's great advice, because it's a tool to be used, but it's not, you can't put all your eggs in that basket. I mean, look, no, you can do whatever you want, but you're running a risk of
absolutely
the rug being pulled out from under you.
Absolutely. Because like in my instance, like I'm not a Kim Kardashian of the world and whatever else. Like I don't have tens of millions of followers. So little old me losing their Instagram means nothing to them. Absolutely nothing. And they, the front that they put out is, we're protecting, we're keeping standards, protecting our community standards. So they
would look at that like, if 1 out of 100 accounts that we pull down was a misjudgment. Yeah, look, we're 99% accurate on our whatever they call it, like enforcing our community standards. That's close enough. It's as good as we can get.
Yep.
But you're the one that lost everything. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, if I'm someone that has, tens of thousands of followers on Instagram or Facebook, and I lose everything, and I've got no other way of contacting those people, and they've got no way of contacting me now, then that's your business literally gone overnight. And there is no one that you can call. Like there are so many subreddits. Contact me. I know someone who works in Meta, and even, my husband even had someone that used to work for him that now works for Facebook, and he couldn't help me because I don't know him directly.
Wow.
So it had to be, the only reason they can kind of look at my request, my appeal, as if it was a personal connection, which it wasn't. So there's a lot of people out there, they're like, you need to get a social media manager, and they've got an account manager at Meta at Facebook. It's all just rubbish.
And it's not like you can take legal action against Meta for damaging one of your revenue streams, because they'll crush you. They'll laugh at you.
It absolutely wouldn't even get. I read a few Reddits of people being like, I sent them a letter telling them I was going to sue them, and it was defamation of character and whatever else.
Right. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Like you might, and it's frustrating because we live in a world where we feel like we can control most things around us, right? And actually, it's a real lesson of being completely helpless. Being stuck up on the mountain, vomiting for 14 hours, going, the only person that is going to get you out of this is me. And I can either have a tanty about it, or I can figure out a way around it and learn the lesson and continue to grow in other areas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very true.
I feel like I got kicked out of a nightclub once. And I
Just
wasn't
once.
doing. Well, yeah, pretty much just once. And I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I think they thought that I was with other people or something like that. So you get, but it's that feeling where you're like, but hang on, what's happening? Like I wasn't even doing anything wrong, and then you're like, but there's nothing you can do. You're outside. The security guards are just like, dude, go away. We don't want to talk to you. We've got 100 other people in there. We don't care that we've kicked one person out that wasn't doing anything wrong. Like move on.
Absolutely.
And it's that kind of feeling where you're like, but
it's not fair.
It's the social injustice of it, and you're like, but I didn't do anything wrong, and you're there going, like, I managed to get managed to make another Facebook account, managed to get that Meta verified so that I could go through the ad support chat, and I'm there going, you guys are costing me my livelihood. Like this is everything. This is like, screw the, pictures of my kids, whatever. They don't care about that. But this is what puts food on my table. Like for me, I don't have another job. I don't have another revenue stream. This is it. And you are directly impacting my ability to feed my children and put a roof over my head. It was really devastating. And at the same time, I was lucky that I do have a lot of other channels and networks that my work does come through. And I did have an established business with a client history that I can kind of reach out to. But I'm still rebuilding. It's really demoralizing, and people do now. They look at social media to kind of validate you and to verify. Yeah, and it is hard when you've got. I think on my new photography Instagram, I think I've got like less than 200 followers, and it's like, how can I sit there and say I'm a photographer with over 20 years worth of experience? I've shot some massive global brands and some incredible Australian brands, but like to Justin's point, it's like I could just go onto a website and just copy and paste those logos and just kind of stick them on there. If people are going to go to my website and then try and check me out on social media, and I've got 200 followers, like
it doesn't tell a congruent story, does it? It feels people will feel like there's something missing.
If anyone wants to, so go to Instagram, go to the photographer Sophie. That's with an I at the end, and let's get the followers up as much as we can. Go and follow.
Thank you guys. Please don't share the photo. Helps. I had my profile photo in that I was shooting for. Yeah, I was shooting for Clarendon Homes, and I had pneumonia. I was really sick, so I look.
Oh gosh!
Amazing in that photo.
Can we enlarge it a bit more?
Oh, is that? I saw this reel.
There it is.
This one. Where you were like,
I was so sick that day. Like I never sit down. I never sit down on a shoot, and I was really sick, which is hard these days to be sick on site. But you're sick, you don't work, you don't get paid. Oh God, that's funny seeing it, and it's a very different way to see your work shown at you, isn't
it? Yeah. Good job, David Mascara. He's number 201. We've got it over 200. Let's keep it going.
Well done, mate.
Thanks, David. That's awesome.
I think that's a really great story to take away. Just like, don't put all your eggs in one basket, especially a basket that you don't ultimately control. Have a website, have an email list.
Drive people to sign up to something somehow, which is something I need to put back on there is, and it's not about sending people out a newsletter that's every month or saturating an inbox. It's just like be a part of your journey. And, so that when you've got something significant to say to people, there's a way of connecting with them. And, and I don't think email marketing is dead. I think there is a space for it, but I think it's about doing it in a respectful way that doesn't, saturate. Oh God, 202. Yeah. Oh, thank 202. You guys.
Let's go. I definitely don't think email marketing's dead. I think it is definitely hard to cut through. But over the last, the recent years, we've seen a resurgence in email newsletters, actual ones that operate that's their platform. They send out a newsletter with information, not just like the newsletter from some company, but a curated news source of written articles and things like that in a newsletter form has worked really well. Yeah. And we had Jeff Cable on 8 times, or probably 9 times now, I don't know, Olympic Games photographer. Absolute amazing photographer, shoots for Canon USA, and he still blogs flat out, blogs and newsletters just all the time. He's got a massive list. It's really impressive. Like he's active on social media, but he's most active on his own website and his own newsletter. So very cool.
And most of his social media posts will always say check out the blog on the site. He's always pushing people to the blog and the email list.
Very 2000 and so something.
Yeah, let's go early 2000s. And it's true. And I think, especially when you're trying to work in a more commercial space as well, Instagram is not a professional networking site. So, and it's a way of being able to directly kind of connect with a lot of people who, you're not going to, you could put a post up on Instagram and Facebook and, not everyone's going to see it. It's not going to hit everybody's, feed. So it's important to have, when you've got like important messages and even, things like at the start of the year, like my, Jan, Feb are pretty quiet, which works well with family and, and school holidays and stuff. But to be able to connect with people and reach out and to have that email list to be like, hey guys, what have you got planned for the year? Let's, would love to catch up, find out what you've got planned in terms of your events or whatever it is, find out how we can work together, because it's just putting you back in their thoughts. Because if I'm the head of marketing for Jaguar Land Rover, say, that's a pretty big job. And I'm not necessarily thinking about what photography and what photographer and small fry Sophie, sat here in Sydney's Northern Beaches. You have to put yourself in their pot of what are the things I need to sort today, because we all have a list, right? We all have a list of things that we've got to get through, daily, weekly, monthly, year goals, whatever. So you have to put yourself front of mind for other people. And sometimes it might be just like, oh, there's that chick again, I'll read that later, and never gets done. But when you do it consistently without being rude and aggressive and annoying, then when you can kind of figure out what that balance is. Like, how often would you like to receive an email? That's what I like to think of. How would I like to be communicated with, and then replicate that?
Especially for something too, because the thing is, every time they book you, you're solving a problem that they have. It's not like you're not asking for charity or something. Like every time, so you're reaching out to basically say, hey, is there anything you need and that I can make really easy for you by just replying to this email and saying, oh yeah, actually we've got this thing coming up. That's one less task that's now floating around in their brain or on their to-do list. Yeah. So it's
Absolutely.
not, if you do it in the right way, it's not some sort of, you're not hassling them. You're offering help. And it's figuring out how often to offer that help.
Absolutely. Yeah, literally that yesterday shoot that I've got this weekend for Coca-Cola. I emailed my contact for the shoot, and I just said, hey, looking forward to the weekend. I'll see you at 10:30. Can you just let me know an address and a contact person and any specifics for the shoot in terms of stuff you need on the day, style, whatever, blah blah. And she wrote back. She's like, oh, you have been on my list of things to do.
Yeah,
and it's not about putting it and making feel someone like they haven't done their job. It's like, great, happy that I can be the person to go, okay, that's one less thing. Yep, that's on my list. And so now when I go to bed, I know I've done everything that I know I've contacted Sophie, because I was probably on her list for the last week to give that information to, but she's just had other more important things going on. And so, realizing as the photographer where you sit on someone's list of priorities is I think a really valuable skill in itself.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really, really cool.
That's great advice.
I know. Oh, it's 2.5 hours. I had one other question, but I don't want to keep you any longer. I had one tiny question, one little one.
Go on.
I just want to know. I want to find out if you've got any tactics or advice or thoughts about just managing your time, because you obviously do a variety of things, and the idea of doing like weddings and then shoots for Coca-Cola, which is insane, and then you're obviously trying to market yourself where you can and run insane distances, and you have a family. Like, how do you manage your time to make sure that you get everything you need done, daily, weekly, whatever?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question as a, kind of, I'll say, neurospicy human being as well, because it's really easy to get sucked into the things that we like to do, that we're interested in, and then the admin-y stuff, the sending of the invoices and things like that, kind of the boring stuff, then can really easily not get done. I think my biggest, skill that I developed as I was building my business, it was that and probably the biggest gift to me was that I worked, full time and then part time when I had kids, and we're in juggling daycare and young children and stuff. And so I learned that my day didn't stop at 5:30 or 6 o'clock or whatever. So there are definite seasons in my business where I can be up until 3 a.m. Editing, delivering galleries, sending invoices, things like that. It's understanding where you've got those times. I do a lot of juggling of it's school holidays in New South Wales at the moment. So at 3:00 yesterday afternoon, took the kids down to a mountain bikes BMX park, and I had my laptop and they're fanging it up and down these runs, and I'm there going, please don't die, but I have to send this email. I think it just taps into, if you want something and you constantly have to remind yourself that it's not just going to get easier, and you kind of have to surrender to that. I think the old adage is, if you want something done, you ask a busy person. So we just find the time. It gets done because it has to, because no one else is going to do it for me. I don't have an HR department. I don't have a financial controller. I don't have a marketing officer. It's me. So if I want this business to be a success and to grow, it's going to come from me. And so I have to do it because I don't have a choice. And I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of drive that comes from that. And I think I like to look at, in my running coaching, I do a lot of mindset work and a lot of coaching around well-being. And my theory is that we have these areas of our lives that all require energy and focus at different times. And, whether it's your emotional well-being, your financial well-being, your, occupational well-being. And there are times when we have to build the pillar of our occupational well-being, right? So we're actively building and we're putting in a lot of time. And that's going to be at the detriment of another pillar in our life. So our emotional well-being or our physical well-being, maybe we don't get to the gym as often as we would like, or, I'm kind of burning out. I'm not getting to spend much time with family and friends because I'm really pursuing this goal, this pillar of my life.
Yeah.
And that's fine, as long as we have the awareness and the visibility of the areas that are going to kind of end up in deficit. Maybe we're borrowing that energy to put into something else. And when we have that visibility and it's in our kind of peripheral a little bit, and go, okay, I know I'm sacrificing a lot. I'm burning the candle at both ends, probably not making the best food choices because I'm just grabbing snacks as I go. But when this pillar is I've gotten through the Christmas season, the wedding season, whatever it is, I can now turn my attention and focus that little bit more on another area of my life that does need that little bit more focus. So I can look at nutrition, recovery, spending time with loved ones, taking time to plan the business. I might not be shooting as much, but I'm going to be planning it and I'm working out what my next steps are, type thing. And I think that's my approach.
I love that.
It's amazing. Yeah, me too.
I love that visual as well. Of pillars, silos. I often think about silos in terms of it's almost the opposite, the reverse. I like to think that we can't always make progress on all parts of our life, but as long as I can be making progress on something, I don't feel like I'm stuck.
Yes.
So
you can't put an empty cup.
Yeah. Yes. So it's almost the opposite. It's almost like, I can't achieve what I want to achieve right now, or something on this one thing, but the other thing is going well. So I can sort of cheer myself up. I don't know.
And that's a really important skill to have, and it lends itself. So I used to be, many moons ago, as a yoga teacher, and there's a sense in the kind of Eastern world of duality, right? So not everything is always good or always bad, and so in our lives, we might be killing it in one area of our life, and there's another area of our life that is maybe not going quite so well, and it's being able to look at it and go, it's okay, and understand that balance is always going to happen, and there's going to be areas of stress, areas of joy, and it's not right or wrong. It just is. And so I think when you're talking like that, it's really important to be very mindful about the words that we use. And so a lot of people will say, I'm killing it at work, but my marriage is suffering. And it's like, one, yes, you're the common denominator, but one doesn't excuse the other, or one doesn't kind of give way to the other. The sentence should be, I'm killing it at work, and, not but, and things maybe are a little bit stressful at home, because the and then leads us to a resolution. The and then leads us to the opportunity to be able to go, I actually have control over that situation as well. And so what energy do I need to put into my marriage or whatever it is to work on that and to build that pillar or fill that cup?
Yep. Wow.
Gosh.
Very
We got-
insightful.
we got-
Very
We got to the great stuff at the end there.
did.
That's
Good question, boss.
20 minutes of gold.
Delete
Awesome.
all the rest.
No, I'll try and clip it up into some good stuff. That's
Great.
awesome. I reckon we should leave it there. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to tie a knot in that one. Just before we say goodbye to everyone, Sophie, just on behalf of all of us here at the Camera Life podcast and Lucky Straps, thank you so much for your time and your input. And I think, what I could confidently call sage advice for anyone at any stage in this industry. We all lose our way from time to time, and sometimes we need to look to our sages for guidance and inspiration and direction. And I think that you offer that in spades. So thank you so much for joining us. It's meant a lot to have you here. Great to catch up with you again. Fingers crossed we see you at BFOP 2026.
Yep, that's the plan.
And if they don't invite you, let us know. We'll smuggle you in somehow. We'll work it out.
I'm only
We're doing a
small.
run. Yeah.
You got to
Getting a
come and
box
you got to
truck
come and
is
see
good
this
forever
new
and that.
jewel strap. You got to come and
Oh,
check it
yeah.
out.
Absolutely. You've said it now. It's out there on the interweb, so it
is.
must be
Paul-
true if it's on the
Paul
interweb.
said it's only 183 days
Hey,
to BFOP. Counting down.
there you go, Justin. Start the
Awesome.
timer.
No, I know. The pressure's on. So before we go, if you haven't gone to Instagram at the photographer Sophie with the dots in it, just search, you'll find it. We're at 204 followers. We need more than that. Come on.
Yeah.
If you're listening back to this later, if you're on your long distance run on Spotify or something, just quickly whip your phone out and go and give it a follow. We can get it up. We can do it. And otherwise, yeah, you'll find links to everything there that Sophie does, a website, all that sort of thing, the different arms of the businesses. Or if you want a masterclass in LinkedIn marketing, head to her LinkedIn and check that out. It's got a ton of activity and followers and things on it. And I think that's how you do it if you want to be a commercial photographer. I don't know. Anything else? Anything we need to know about you, Sophie? Anything else? Anything
Come
you're
for a
working
run
on
with
right
me
now?
one day, Justin. I think there's a market there. We could do the
I would
podcast
love
on the
to
run.
watch that. I will film it.
It would be, you would have to do all the talking. I would just be like, it would,
I think I've proven that I'm okay having a chat.
You're okay. It's okay.
I'll just get the odd, it's a good idea out of the, so I struggle to run up a hill. Maybe one day the marathon or the, you know what I figured? I'll never do a marathon. I think I go straight to some sort of 50K race because then you can call yourself an ultra runner. You just don't tell people that it was the smallest ultra.
Well, you could do an ultra run. You could do a 43-kilometer ultra. Anything over a 42.2 is considered an ultra. So
Is it? I thought it was 50. Yeah. Oh, that's definitely how I'd do it. You just run just a little bit past the finish line of a marathon and just call yourself an ultra runner.
Yeah.
As long as it's on Strava.
Yeah, exactly. Then it counts.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right.
All right. Let's roll some music and we'll say goodbye to some people in the chat.
Yeah. Oh, and I should say too, the anniversary sale at luckystraps.com will finish on midnight Sunday, probably. You use the code Make It Yours for free personalization. And there's lots of straps discounted up to 25% off. So head to luckystraps.com now and check it out. Yeah. Otherwise, what do we got here? Phil Thompson says, thanks, Greg and Justin, for an absolutely incredible interview and insight, Sophie. David Mascara says, great show, guys. Thanks, Sophie. Hope you're feeling all right, David.
Yeah.
Hope it didn't
Take
hurt
care,
too much.
David.
Are you still in the bath or were you able to get out? Lisa Leach says, thank you, Justin and Greg. Thank you, Sophie. Incredible show, inspiring and engaging. Loved it. Paul has an amended zombie question, but we'll have to something heavyweight cannons. I'm not sure. Philip Johnson, the music gives me too much pressure to read things fast. Philip Johnson says, thanks, Justin, Greg, and special thanks, Sophie. What else have we got here? Lots of stuff. Anyway, thanks everyone that joined us. Thanks, Nev. Thanks. Matt Palm was here. V-Tran. Lots of people. Bruce Moyle. Everybody. We'll see you on the next one.